Section 100 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Yahoo's Overthrow, or the Kevin Bale's New Ballad, upon Sergeant Kite's insulting the Dean. Jolly boys of St. Kevin's, St. Patrick's, Donore, and Smithfield, I'll tell you, if not told before, how Bettesworth, that booby and scoundrel in grain, has insulted us all by insulting the Dane. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. The Dean and his merits we every one know, but this skip of a lawyer, where the de'il did he grow? How greater his merit at forecourts or house, than the barking of Towser or leap of a louse? Knock him down, 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 knock him down. That he came from the Temple his morals do show, but where his deep law is, few mortals yet know. His rhetoric, bombast, silly jests are by far more like to lampooning than pleading at bar. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. This pedlar at speaking and making of laws has met with returns of all sorts but applause, has with noise and odd gestures been prating some years, what honester folks never durst for their ears. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. Of all sizes and sorts the fanatical crew are his brother Protestants, good men and true. Red hat and blue bonnet, and turbans the same, what the de'il is't to him whence the devil they came? Knock him down, 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 knock him down. Hobbes, Tindal, and Woolston, and Collins, and Naylor, and Muggleton, Toland, and Bradley the tailor, are Christians alike, and it may be averred, he's a Christian as good as the rest of the herd. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. He only the rates of the clergy debates, their rights, their importance, will set on new rates. On their tithes at half nothing, their priesthood at less, what's next to be voted with ease you may guess. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. At length his old master, I need not him name, to this damnable speaker had long owed a shame. When his speech came abroad, he paid him off clean, by leaving him under the pen of the Dean. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. He kindled as if the whole satire had been the oppression of virtue, not wages of sin. He began as he bragged, with a rant and a roar. He bragged how he bounced, and he swore how he swore. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. Though he cringed to his deanship in very low strains, to others he boasted of knocking out brains, and slitting of noses and cropping of ears, while his own ass's zags were more fit for the shears. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. On this worrier of deans, whene'er we can hit, we'll show him the way how to crop and to slit. We'll teach him some better address to afford to the Dean of all deans, though he wears not a sword. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. We'll colt him through Kevin, St. Patrick's, Donore, and Smithfield as rap was near colted before. We'll oil him with kennel, and powder him with grains, a modus right fit for insulters of Danes. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. And when this is over, we'll make him amends. To the Dean he shall go, they shall kiss and be friends. But how, why the Dean shall him to disclose a face for to kiss without eyes, ears, or nose? Knock him down, 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 knock him down. If you say this is hard on a man that is reckoned, that sergeant at law whom we call Kite the Second, you mistake for a slave who will coax his superiors, may be proud to be licking a great man's posteriors. Knock him down, 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 knock him down. What care we how high runs his passion or pride? Though his soul he despises, he values his hide. Then fear not his tongue, or his sword, or his knife. He'll take his revenge on his innocent wife. Knock him down, 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 keep him down. End of section 100. Section 101 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On the Archbishop of Cashel and Bettesworth. Dear Dick, prithee tell by what passion you move. The world is in doubt whether hatred or love. And while at good Cashel you rail with such spite, they shrewdly suspect it is all but a bite. You certainly know, though so loudly you vapour, his spite cannot wound who attempted the Drapier. Then prithee reflect, take a word of advice, and, as your old wont is, change sides in a trice. On his virtues hold forth, 'tis the very best way, and say of the man what all honest men say. But if, still obdurate, your anger remains, if still your foul bosom more rancour contains, say then more than they, nay, lavishly flatter, 'tis your gross panegyrics alone can bespatter. For thine, my dear Dick, give me leave to speak plain, like very foul mops, dirty more than they clean. On the Irish Club, 1733. Ye paltry underlings of state, ye senators who love to prate, ye rascals of inferior note, who for a dinner sell a vote, ye pack of pensionary peers, whose fingers itch for poets' ears, ye bishops far removed from saints, why all this rage? Why these complaints? Why against printers all this noise, this summoning of blackguard boys? Why so sagacious in your guesses, your F's and T's and R's and S's? Take my advice to make you safe, I know a shorter way by half. The point is plain, remove the cause, defend your liberties and laws. Be sometimes to your country true, have once the public good in view. Bravely despise champagne at court, and choose to dine at home with port. Let prelates by their good behaviour convince us they believe a Saviour, nor sell what they so dearly bought, this country now their own, for naught. Ne'er did a true satiric muse virtue or innocence abuse, and 'tis against poetic rules to rail at men by nature fools. On Noisy Tom. Horace, part of Book 1, Satire 6, paraphrased, 1733. If Noisy Tom should in the senate prate, that he would answer both for church and state, and farther to demonstrate his affection, would take the kingdom into his protection, all mortals must be curious to inquire, who could this coxcomb be, and who his sire? What, thou the spawn of him who shamed our isle? Traitor, assassin, and informer vile? Though by the female side you proudly bring, to mend your breed, the murderer of a king, what was thy grandsire but a mountaineer, who held a cabin for 10 groats a year, whose master Moore preserved him from the halter, for stealing cows, nor could he read the Psalter? Durst thou, ungrateful, from the senate chase thy founder's grandson, and usurp his place? Just heaven, to see the dunghill bastard brood survive in thee, and make the proverb good! Then vote a worthy citizen to jail, in spite of justice, and refuse his bail. End of Section 101. Section 102 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On Dr. Rundle, Bishop of Derry, 1734-5. Make Rundle bishop? Fie, for shame! An Arian to usurp the name? A bishop on the Isle of Saints? How will his brethren make complaints? Dare any of the mitred host confer on him the Holy Ghost, in Mother Church to breed a variance, by coupling Orthodox with Arians? Yet were he heathen, Turk, or Jew, what is there in it strange or new? For let us hear the weak pretence his brethren find to take offence, of whom there are but 4 at most, who know there is a Holy Ghost. The rest, who boast they have conferred it, like Paul's Ephesians, never heard it. And when they gave it, well 'tis known, they gave what never was their own. Rundle a bishop? Well he may, he's still a Christian more than they. We know the subject of their quarrels, the man has learning, sense, and morals. There is a reason still more weighty, 'tis granted he believes a deity, has every circumstance to please us, though fools may doubt his faith in Jesus. But why should he with that be loaded, now 20 years from court exploded? And is not this objection odd, from rogues who ne'er believed a God? For liberty a champion stout, though not so gospel ward devout, while others hither sent to save us come but to plunder and enslave us, nor ever own'd a power divine, but Mammon and the German line. Say, how did Rundle undermine 'em? Who shew'd a better jus divinum? From ancient canons would not vary, But thrice refused episcopari. Our bishop's predecessor Magus would offer all the sands of Tagus, or send his children, house, and lands, for that one gift to lay on hands. But all his gold could not avail to have the spirit set to sail. Said surly Peter, Magus, prithee, begone, thy money perish with thee. Were Peter now alive, perhaps he might have found a score of chaps, could he but make his gift appear in rents 3000 a year. Some fancy this promotion odd, and not the handiwork of God, though e'en the bishops disappointed must own it made by God's anointed. And well we know the congé regal is more secure as well as legal, because our lawyers all agree that bishoprics are held in fee. Dear Baldwin, chaste and witty cross, how sorely I lament your loss, that such a pair of wealthy ninnies should slip your time of dropping guineas. For had you made the king your debtor, your title had been so much better. Epigram. Friend Rundle fell with grievous bump upon his reverential rump. Poor rump, thou hadst been better sped, hadst thou been joined to Bolter's head. A head so weighty and profound would needs have kept thee from the ground. End of section 102. Section 103 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A character panegyric and description of the Legion Club, 1736. As I stroll the city oft I see a building large and lofty, not a bow shot from the college, half the globe from sense and knowledge, by the prudent architect placed against the church direct, making good my grandam's jest, near the church, you know the rest. Tell us what the pile contains, many a head that has no brains. These demoniacs let me dub with the name of Legion Club. Such assemblies, you might swear, meet when butchers bait a bear, such a noise and such haranguing when a brother's thief a hanging, such a rout and such a rabble run to hear Jack Pudding gabble, such a crowd their ordure throws on a far less villain's nose. Could I from the building's top hear the rattling thunder drop, while the devil upon the roof, if the devil be thunderproof, should with poker fiery red crack the stones and melt the lead, drive them down on every skull when the den of thieves is full, quite destroy that harpy's nest, how might then our isle be blessed? For divines allow that God sometimes makes the devil his rod, and the gospel will inform us he can punish sins enormous. Yet should Swift endow the schools for his lunatics and fools with a rood or two of land, I allow the pile may stand. You perhaps will ask me why so, but it is with this proviso: since the house is like to last, let the royal grant be passed, that the club have right to dwell, each within his proper cell, with a passage left to creep in, and a hole above for peeping. Let them, when they once get in, sell the nation for a pin. While they sit a picking straws, let them rave of making laws. While they never hold their tongue, let them dabble in their dung. Let them form a grand committee, how to plague and starve the city. Let them stare and storm and frown when they see a clergy gown. Let them, ere they crack a louse, call for the orders of the house. Let them with their gosling quills scribble senseless heads of bills. We may, while they strain their throats, wipe our asses with their votes. Let Sir Tom, that rampant ass, stuff his guts with flax and grass, but before the priest he fleeces, tear the Bible all to pieces. At the parson's, Tom Halloo boy were the offspring of a shoe boy. Footman, traitor, vile seducer, perjured rebel, bribed accuser, lay thy privilege aside, from papist sprung and regicide. Fall a working like a mole, raise the dirt about thy hole. Come assist me, Muse obedient, let us try some new expedient. Shift the scene for half an hour, time and place are in thy power. Thither, gentle Muse, conduct me, I shall ask, and you instruct me. See, the Muse unbars the gate. Hark, the monkeys, how they prate! All ye gods who rule the soul, Styx through hell whose waters roll, let me be allow'd to tell what I heard in yonder hell. Near the door an entrance gapes, crowded round with antic shapes, poverty and grief and care, causeless joy and true despair. Discord periwigg'd with snakes, see the dreadful stride she takes. By this odious crew beset, I began to rage and fret, and resolved to break their pates ere we enter'd at the gates. Had not Clio in the nick whisper'd me, lay down your stick. What, said I, is this a madhouse? These, she answer'd, are but shadows, phantoms, bodiless and vain, empty visions of the brain. In the porch Briareus stands, shows a bribe in all his hands. Briareus the secretary, but we mortals call him Carry. When the rogues their country fleece, they may hope for pence a piece. Clio, who had been so wise to put on a fool's disguise, to bespeak some approbation, and be thought a near relation, when she saw 300 brutes, all involved in wild disputes, roaring till their lungs were spent, Privilege of Parliament! Now a new misfortune feels, dreading to be laid by Theals, never durst a Muse before enter that infernal door. Clio, stifled with the smell, into spleen and vapours fell, by the Stygian streams that flew from the dire infectious crew. Not the stench of Lake Avernoes could have more offended her nose, had she flown but o'er the top, she had felt her pinions drop, and by exhaltations dire, though a goddess, must expire. In a fright she crept away, bravely I resolved to stay. When I saw the keeper frown'd, tipping him with half a crown, Now, said I, we are alone, name your heroes one by one. Who is that hell-featured brawler? Is it Satan? No, 'tis Waller. In what figure can a bard dress? Jack, the grandson of Sir Hardress? Honest keeper, drive him further, in his looks are hell and murther. See the scowling visage drop, just as when he murder'd Throp. Keeper, show me where to fix on the puppy pair of Dicks. By their lantern jaws and leathern, you might swear they both are brethren. Dick Fitzbaker, Dick the player, old acquaintance, are you there? Dear companions, hug and kiss, toast Old Glorious in your piss. Tie them, keeper, in a tether, let them starve and stink together. Both are apt to be unruly, lash them daily, lash them duly. Though 'tis hopeless to reclaim them, Scorpion's rods perhaps may tame them. Keeper, yon old dotard smoke, sweetly snoring in his cloak. Who is he? 'Tis Humdrum Win, half encompassed by his kin. There observe the tribe of Bingham, for he never fails to bring him. And that base apostate Vesey, with bishop's scraps grown fat and gracy, while Win sleeps the whole debate, they submissive round him wait. Yet would gladly see the hunks in his grave, and search his trunks. See they gently twitch his coat, just to yawn and give his vote, always firm in his vocation, for the court against the nation. Those are Allens, Jack, and Bob, first in every wicked job, son and brother to a queer brain-sick brute they call a peer. We must give them better quarter, for their ancestor trod mortar, and at Hoath, to boost his fame, on a chimney cut his name. There sit Clements, Dilks, and Carter, who for hell would die a martyr. Such a triplet could you tell where to find this side of hell? Gallows, Carter, Dilks, and Clements, souse them in their own excrements. Every mischief's in their hearts; if they fail, 'tis want of parts. Bless us, Morgan, art thou there, man? Bless mine eyes, art thou the chairman? Chairman to yon damn'd committee, yet I look on thee with pity. Dreadful sight! what learned Morgan metamorphosed to a Gorgon! for thy horrid looks, I own, half convert me to a stone. Hast thou been so long at school, now to turn a factious tool? Alma mater was thy mother, every young divine thy brother. Thou a disobedient varlet, treat thy mother like a harlot. Thou ungrateful to thy teachers, who are all grown reverend preachers. Morgan, would it not surprise one to turn thy nourishment to poison? When you walk among your books, they reproach you with their looks. Bind them fast, or from their shelves they'll come down to write themselves. Homer, Plutarch, Virgil, Flaccus, all in arms prepare to back us. Soon repent, or put to slaughter every Greek and Roman author. Will you in your faction's phrase send the clergy all to graze? And to make your project pass, leave them not a blade of grass? How I want thee, humorous Hogarth, thou, I hear, a pleasant Rogart. Were but you and I acquainted, every monster should be painted. You should try your graving tools on this odious group of fools. Draw the beasts, as I describe them, from their features, while I gibe them. Draw them like, for I assure ya, you will need no caricatura. Draw them so, that we may trace all the soul in every face. Keeper, I must now retire, you have done what I desire. But I feel my spirits spent with the noise, the sight, the scent. Pray be patient, you shall find half the best are still behind. You have hardly seen a score, I can show 200 more. Keeper, I have seen enough. Taking then a pinch of snuff, I concluded, looking round them, may their God the devil confound them. End of section 103. Section 104 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On a Printer being sent to Newgate. Better we all were in our graves than live in slavery to slaves. Worse than the anarchy at sea, where fishes on each other prey, where every trout can make as high rants, or his inferiors as our tyrants, and swagger while the coast is clear. But should a lordly pike appear, away you see the varlet scud, or hide his coward snout in mud. Thus if a gudgeon meet a roach, he dares not venture to approach, yet still has impudence to rise, and like Domitian leap at flies. A Vindication of the Libel, or a new ballad written by a shoeboy on an attorney who was formerly a shoeboy. With singing of ballads and crying of news, with whitening of buckles and blacking of shoes, did Hartley set out, both shoeless and shirtless, and moneyless too, but not very dirtless. 2 pence he had gotten by begging, that's all. One bought him a brush, and one a black ball. For clouts at a loss he could not be much, the clothes on his back as being but such. Thus vamp'd and accoutred with clouts, ball, and brush, he gallantly ventured his fortune to push. Vespasian thus, being bespattered with dirt, was omen'd to be Rome's emperor for't. But as a wise fiddler is noted, you know, to have a good couple of strings to one bow, so Hartley judiciously thought it too little to live by the sweat of his hands and his spittle. He finds out another profession as fit, and straight he becomes a retailer of wit. One day he cried murders and songs and great news; another as loudly, here, blacken your shoes. At Domville's full often he fed upon bits, for winding of jacks up and turning of spits; licked all the plates round, had many a grubbing, and now and then got from the cookmaid a drubbing. Such bastings effect upon him could have none, the dog will be patient that's struck with a bone. Sir Thomas observing this Hartley withal, so expert and so active at brushes and ball, was moved with compassion, and thought it a pity a youth should be lost that had been so witty. Without more ado he vamps up my spark, and now we'll suppose him an eminent clerk. Suppose him an adept in all the degrees of scribbling cum dasho and hooking of fees. Suppose him a miser, attorney per bill. Suppose him a courtier, suppose what you will. Yet would you believe, though I swore by the Bible, that he took up 2 newsboys for crying the libel? A friendly apology for a certain justice of peace, by way of defence of Hartley Hutchison, Esquire, by James Blackwell, operator for the feat. But he, by bawling news about, and aptly using brush and clout, a justice of the peace became, to punish rogues who do the same. I sing the man of courage tried, o'errun with ignorance and pride, who boldly hunted out disgrace, with canker'd mind and hideous face. The first who made, let none deny it, the libel vending rogues be quiet. The fact was glorious, we must own, for Hartley was before unknown. Condemn'd, I mean, for who would choose so vile a subject for the Muse? 'Twas once the noblest of his wishes to fill his paunch with scraps from dishes, for which he'd parch before the grate, or wind the jack's slow rising weight, such toils as best his talents fit, or polish shoes, or turn the spit. But unexpectedly grown rich in Squire Domville's family and kitchen, he pants to eternize his name, and takes the dirty road to fame. Believes that persecuting wit will prove the surest way to it. So with a colonel at his back, the libel feels his first attack. He calls it a seditious paper, writ by another patriot Drapier; then raves and blunders nonsense thicker than aldermen o'ercharged with liquor. And all this with design, no doubt, to hear his praises hawked about, to send his name through every street, which erst he roam'd with dirty feet, well pleased to live in future times, though but in keen satiric rhymes. So Ajax, who, for aught we know, was justice many years ago, and minding then no earthly things, but killing libellers of kings, or if he wanted work to do, to run a bawling newsboy through. Yet he, when wrapped up in a cloud, entreated Father Jove aloud, only in light to show his face, though it might tend to his disgrace. And so the Ephesian villain fired the temple which the world admired, condemning death, despising shame, to gain an ever odious name. I and No, a tale from Dublin, written in 1737. At Dublin's high feast sat primate and dean, both dressed like divines, with band and face clean. Quoth Hugh of Armagh, the mob is grown bold. Ay, ay, quoth the dean, the cause is old gold. No, no, quoth the primate, if causes we sift, this mischief arises from witty Dean Swift. The smart one replied, there's no wit in the case, and nothing of that ever troubled your grace. Though with your state sieve your own notions you split, a bolter by name is no bolter of wit. It's matter of weight, and a mere money job, but the lower the coin, the higher the mob. Go tell your friend Bob, and the other great folk, that sinking the coin is a dangerous joke. The Irish dear joys have enough common sense to treat gold reduced like Wood's copper pence. It's a pity a prelate should die without law, but if I say the word, take care of Armagh. A Ballad. Patrick Astor, what news upon the town? By my soul, there's bad news, for the gold she was pulled down. The gold she was pulled down, of that I'm very sure, for I saw them reading upon the Tousell door. Sing och, och, ho, ho. Or who was him reading? 'Twas gentlemen in ruffles, and Patrick's bell she was ringing all in muffles. She was ringing very sorry, her tongue tied up with rag. Lorsha, and out of her steeple there was hung a black flag. Sing och, och, ho, ho. Patrick Astor, who was him made this law? Some they do say 'twas the bake man of straw, but others they do say that it was Jug Jolter. The devil he may take her into hell and bolt her. Sing och, och, ho, ho. Musha, why Parliament wouldn't you maul those carters and paviors and footmen and all, those rascally paviors who did us undermine? Och masid milia molligart on the feeders of swine. Sing och, och, ho, ho. A wicked treasonable libel. While the king and his ministers keep such a pother, and all about changing one whore for another, think I to myself, what need all this strife? His majesty first had a whore of a wife, and surely the difference mounts to no more, than now he has gotten a wife of a whore. Now give me your judgment, a very nice case on, each queen has a son, say which is the base one? Say which of the two is the right Prince of Wales to succeed when, God bless him, his majesty fails? Perhaps it may puzzle our loyal divines to unite these two Protestant parallel lines, from a left-handed wife, and one turned out of doors, two reputed king's sons, both true sons of whores. No law can determine it, which is first ours. But alas, poor old England, how wilt thou be master'd? For take which you please, it must needs be a bastard. End of section 104. Section 105 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Epigrams against Carthy by Swift and Others. On Carthy's translation of Horace, containing on one side the original Latin, on the other his own version. This I may boast, which few e'er could, half of my book at least is good. On Carthy Minotaurus. How monstrous Carthy looks, with Flaccus braced! For here we see the man, and there the beast. On the same. Once Horace fancied from a mon he was transformed to a swan, but Carthy, as from him thou learnest, hast made the man a goose in earnest. Imitated. So blush'd Aurora with celestial charms, so bloom'd the goddess in a mortal's arms. He sunk at length to wasting age a prey, but thy book perish'd on its natal day. Imitated. Could Horace give so sad a monster birth? Why then in vain he would excite our mirth. His humour well our laughter might command, but who can bear the death's head in his hand? An Irish Epigram on the same. While with the fustian of thy book the witty ancient you enrobe, you make the graceful Horace look as pitiful as Tom Malobe. Ye Muses, guard your sacred mount, and Helicon, for if this log should stumble once into the fount, he'll make it muddy as a bog. On Carthy's translation of Longinus. High as Longinus to the stars ascends, so deeply Carthy to the centre tends. On the same. What Midas touch'd became true gold, but then gold becomes lead, touch'd lightly by the pen. Carthy knock'd out some teeth from his newsboy, for saying he could not live by the profits of Carthy's works, as they did not sell. I must confess that I was somewhat warm. I broke his teeth, but where's the mighty harm? My work, he said, could ne'er afford him meat, and teeth are useless where there's nought to eat. To Carthy, on his sending about specimens to force people to subscribe to his Longinus. Thus vagrant beggars to extort, by charity a mean support, their sores and putrid ulcers show, and shock our sense till we bestow. To Carthy, on his accusing Mr. Duncan for not publishing his book of poems. How different from thine is Duncan's lot! Thou'rt cursed for publishing, and he for naught. On Carthy's publishing several lampoons, under the names of infamous poetasters. So witches bent on bad pursuits assume the shapes of filthy brutes. To Carthy. Thy labours, Carthy, long conceal'd from light, piled in a garret, charm'd the author's sight; but forced from their retirement into day, the tender embryos half unknown decay. Thus lamps which burn'd in tombs with silent glare, expire when first exposed to open air. To Carthy, attributing some performances to Mr. Duncan. My lines to him you give to speak your due, 'tis what no man alive will say of you. Your works are like old Jacob's speckled goats, known by the verse, yet better by the notes. Pope's essays upon some for youngs may pass, but all distinguish thy dull leaden mass. So green indifferent lights may pass for blue, but what's dyed black will take no other hue. Upon Carthy's threatening to translate Pindar. You have undone Horace, what should hinder Thy muse from falling upon Pindar? But ere you mount his fiery steed, Beware, O bard, how you proceed; For should you give him once the reins, High up in air he'll turn your brains; And if you should his fury check, 'Tis 10 to 1 he breaks your neck. Dr. Swift wrote the following epigram on one Delacourt's complimenting Carthy on his poetry. Carthy, you say, writes well, his genius true. You pawn your word for him, he'll vouch for you. So two poor knaves, who find their credit fail, to cheat the world, become each other's bail. End of section 105. Section 106 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Poetical Epistle to Dr. Sheridan. Some ancient authors wisely write, That he who drinks will wake at night, Will never fail to lose his rest, And feel a straitness in his chest. A straitness in a double sense, A straitness both of breath and pence. Physicians say, it is but reasonable He that comes home at hour unseasonable, Besides a fall and broken shins, Those smaller judgments for his sins. If when he goes to bed he meets A teasing wife between the sheets, 'Tis 6 to 5 he'll never sleep, But rave and toss till morning peep. Yet harmless Betty must be blamed, Because you feel your lungs inflamed. But if you would not get a fever, You never must one moment leave her. This comes of all your drunken tricks, Your parries and your brace of dicks, Your hunting Helsham in his laboratory, To was the time you saw that drab Lacaperi. But like the prelate who lives yonder, And always cries he's like Cassandra, I always told you, Mr. Sheridan, If once this company you were rid on, Frequented honest folk, and very few, You'd live till all your friends were weary of you. But if rack punch you still would swallow, I then forewarned you what would follow. Are the deanery sober hours? Be witness for me, all ye powers. The cloth is laid at 8, and then We sit till half an hour past 10. One bottle well might serve for 3, If Mrs. Robinson drank like me. And how I fret when she has beckoned To Robert to bring up a second. I hate to have it in my sight, And drink my share in perfect spite. If Robin brings the lady's word, The coach is come, I 'scape a third. If not, why then I fall a talking, How sweet a night it is for walking. For in all conscience were my treasurable, I think a quart a piece unreasonable. It strikes 11, get out of doors. This is my constant farewell, yours. October 18th, 1724, 9 in the morning. You had best hap yourself up in a chair and dine with me than with the provost. Lines written on a window in the Episcopal Palace at Kilmore. Resolve me this, ye happy dead, Who've lain some 100 years in bed, From every persecution free That in this wretched life we see, Would ye resume a second birth, And choose once more to live on earth? Dr. Sheridan wrote underneath the following lines. Thus spoke great Bedell from his tomb: Mortal, I would not change my doom, To live in such a restless state, To be unfortunately great, To flatter fools and spurn at knaves, To shine amidst a race of slaves, To learn from wise men to complain, And only rise to fall again. No, let my dusty relics rest, Until I rise among the blest. End of section 106. Section 107 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Upstart. The rascal! That's too mild a name. Does he forget from whence he came? Has he forgot from whence he sprung? A mushroom in a bed of dung? A maggot in a cake of fat? The offspring of a baker's brat? As eels delight to creep in mud, To eels we may compare his blood. His blood delights in mud to run, Witness his lazy lousy son. puffed up with pride and insolence, without a grain of common sense. See with what consequence he stalks, with what pomposity he talks. See how the gaping crowd admire the stupid blockhead and the liar. How long shall vice triumphant reign? How long shall mortals bend to gain? How long shall virtue hide her face, and leave her votaries in disgrace? Let indignation fire my strains, another villain yet remains. Let purse proud C next approach, with what an air he mounts his coach! A cart would best become the knave, a dirty parasite and slave. His heart in poison deeply dipt, his tongue with oily accents tipped, a smile still ready at command, the pliant bow, the forehead bland. Section 107. Section 108 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On the Arms of the Town of Waterford. A thistle is the Scottish arms, which to the toucher threatens harms. What are the arms of Waterford, that no man touches but a turd? Verses on Blenheim. See, here's the grand approach, that way is for his grace's coach. There lies the bridge, and there's the clock, observe the lion and the cock, the spacious court, the colonnade, and mind how wide the hall is made. The chimneys are so well designed, they never smoke in any wind. The galleries contrived for walking, the windows to retire and talk in, the council chamber to debate, and all the rest are rooms of state. Thanks, sir, cried I, 'tis very fine, but where d'ye sleep, or where d'ye dine? I find, by all you have been telling, that 'tis a house, but not a dwelling. Section 108. Section 109 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. An excellent new song upon the late grand jury. Poor monsieur his conscience preserved for a year, yet in 1 hour he lost it, 'tis known far and near. To whom did he lose it? A judge or a peer? Which nobody can deny. This very same conscience was sold in a closet, nor for a baked loaf, or a loaf in a losset, but a sweet sugar plum, which you put in a posset, which nobody can deny. O monsieur, to sell it for nothing was nonsense, for if you would sell it, it should have been long since. But now you have lost both your cake and your conscience, which nobody can deny. So Nell of the dairy, before she was wed, refused 10 good guineas for her maidenhead, yet gave it for nothing to smooth spoken Ned, which nobody can deny. But monsieur, no wonder dat you were collogue, since selling de contra be now all de vogue. You be but von fool after 17 rogue, which nobody can deny. Some sell it for profit, 'tis very well known, and some but for sitting in sight of the throne, and others some sell what is none of their own, which nobody can deny. But Philpot and Corker and Burrus and Hayes and Rayner and Nicholson challenge our praise, with 6 other worthies as glorious as theys, which nobody can deny. There's Dunneve and Hart and Archer and Blood, and Gibson and Gerhard, all true men and good, all lovers of Ireland and haters of wood, which nobody can deny. But the slaves that would sell us shall hear on't in time, their names shall be branded in prose and in rhyme. We'll paint 'em in colours as black as their crime, which nobody can deny. But poor and copper Lehigh will excuse the commands of your betters you dare not refuse. Obey was the word when you wore wooden shoes, which nobody can deny. Section 109. Section 110 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. An excellent new song upon his Grace our good Lord Archbishop of Dublin, by honest Joe, one of his Grace's farmers in Fingal. I sing not of the Drapier's praise, nor yet of William Wood, but I sing of a famous lord who seeks his country's good. Lord William's Grace of Dublin town, 'tis he that first appears, whose wisdom and whose piety do far exceed his years. In every council and debate he stands for what is right, and still the truth he will maintain, whate'er he loses bite. And though some think him in the wrong, yet still there comes a season when every one turns round about, and owns his Grace had reason. His firmness to the public good, as one that knows it swore, has lost his Grace for 10 years past £10,000 and more. Then come the poor and strip him so, they leave him not a cross, for he regards £10,000 no more than Wood's dross. To beg his favour is the way new favours still to win. He makes no more to give £10 than I to give a pin. Why, there's my landlord now, the squire, who all in money wallows. He would not give a groat to save his father from the gallows. A bishop, says the noble squire, I hate the very name. To have £2,000 a year, oh, 'tis a burning shame. £2,000 a year, good Lord, and I to have but 5! And under him no tenant yet was ever known to thrive. Now from his lordship's Grace I hold a little piece of ground, and all the rent I pay is scarce 5 shillings in the pound. Then master steward takes my rent, and tells me, honest Joe, come, you must take a cup of sack or 2 before you go. He bids me then to hold my tongue, and up the money locks, for fear my lord should send it all into the poor man's box. And once I was so bold to beg that I might see his Grace. Good Lord, I wonder how I dared to look him in the face. Then down I went upon my knees, his blessing to obtain. He gave it me, and ever since I find I thrive amain. Then, said my lord, I'm very glad to see thee, honest friend. I know the times are something hard, but hope they soon will mend. Pray never press yourself for rent, but pay me when you can. I find you bear a good report, and are an honest man. Then said his lordship with a smile, I must have lawful cash. I hope you will not pay my rent in that same Wood's trash. God bless your Grace, I then replied, I'd see him hanging higher, before I'd touch his filthy dross, than his Clandalkin spire. To every farmer twice a week, all round about the yoke, our parsons read the Drapier's books, and make us honest folk. And then I went to pay the squire, and in the way I found his baillie driving all my cows into the parish pound. Why, sirrah, said the noble squire, how dare you see my face? Your rent is due almost a week, beside the days of grace. And yet the land I from him hold is set so on the rack, that only for the bishop's lease 'twould quickly break my back. Then God preserve his lordship's Grace, and make him live as long as did Methusalem of old, and so I end my song. To his Grace the Archbishop of Dublin. A Poem. Great good and just was once applied to one who for his country died. To one who lives in its defence we speak it in a happier sense. O may the fates thy life prolong! Our country then can dread no wrong. In thy great care we place our trust, because thou'rt great and good and just. Thy breast unshaken can oppose our private and our public foes. The latent wiles and tricks of state your wisdom can with ease defeat. When power in all its pomp appears, it falls before thy reverend years, and willingly resigns its place to something nobler in thy face. When once the fierce pursuing Gaul had drawn his sword for Marius' fall, the godlike hero with a frown struck all his rage and malice down. Then how can we dread William Wood, if by thy presence he's withstood? Where wisdom stands to keep the field, in vain he brings his brazen shield. Though like the Sibyl's priest he comes, with furious din of brazen drums, the force of thy superior voice shall strike him dumb, and quell their noise. End of section 110. Section 111 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To the Citizens. And shall the patriot who maintained your cause from future ages only meet applause? Shall he who timely rose t'his country's aid by her own sons, her guardians, be betrayed? Did heathen virtues in your hearts reside, these wretches had been damned for parricide. Should you behold, whilst dreadful armies threat the sure destruction of an injured state, some hero with superior virtue blessed, avert their rage and succour the distressed, inspired with love of glorious liberty, do wonders to preserve his country free. He like the guardian shepherd stands, and they like lions spoiled of their expected prey, each urging in his rage the deadly dart, resolved to pierce the generous hero's heart. Struck with the sight, your souls would swell with grief, and dare 10,000 deaths to his relief. But if the people he preserved should cry, he went too far, and he deserved to die, would not your soul such treachery detest, and indignation boil within your breast? Would not you wish that wretched state preserved, to feel the tenfold ruin they deserved? If then oppression has not quite subdued at once your prudence and your gratitude, if you yourselves conspire not your undoing, and don't deserve and won't draw down your ruin, if yet to virtue you have some pretence, if yet ye are not lost to common sense, assist your patriot in your own defence. That stupid cant, he went too far, despise, and know that to be brave is to be wise. Think how he struggled for your liberty, and give him freedom whilst yourselves are free. End of section 111. Section 112 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Punch's Petition to the Ladies. Fair ones who do all hearts command, and gently sway with fan in hand, your favourite Punch a suppliant falls, and humbly for assistance calls. He humbly calls and begs you'll stop the Gothic rage of Vander Hop, who invades without pretence and right, or any law but that of might, our pigmy land, and treats our kings like paltry idle wooden things, has beat our dancers out of doors, and called our chastest virgins whores. He has not left our queen a rag on, has forced away our George and Dragon, has broke our wires, nor was he civil to Dr. Faustus nor the devil. E'en us he hurried with full rage, most hoarsely squalling off the stage. And faith our fright was very great, to see a minister of state, arm'd with power and fury come, to force us from our little home. We fear'd, as I am sure we had reason, an accusation of high treason. Till starting up, says Banamere, treason, my friends, we need not fear, for 'gainst the brass we used no power, nor strove to save the chancellor. Nor did we show the least affection to Rochfort or the Meath election. Nor did we sing, Magoo he means, you villain, I'll dash out your brains. 'Tis no affair of state which brings me here, or business of the king's. I'm come to seize you all as debtors, and bind you fast in iron fetters, from sight of every friend in town, till £50 to me paid down. 50, quoth I, a devilish sum; but stay till the brass farthings come, then we shall all be rich as Jews, from Cashel down to lowest stews. That sum shall to you then be told, though now we cannot furnish gold. Quoth he, thou vile misshapen beast, thou knave, am I become thy jest? And dost thou think that I am come to carry nought but farthings home? Thou fool, I ne'er do things by halves, farthings are made for Irish slaves. No brass for me, it must be gold, or £50 in silver told, that can by any means obtain freedom for thee and for thy train. Votre très humble serviteur. I'm not in jest, said I, I'm sure, but from the bottom of my belly I do in sober sadness tell you, I thought it was good reasoning for us fictitious men to bring brass counters made by William Wood, intrinsic as we flesh and blood. Then, since we are but mimic men, pray let us pay in mimic coin. Quoth he, thou lovest, Punch, to prate, and couldst for ever hold debate; but think'st thou I have nought to do but to stand prating thus with you? Therefore, to stop your noisy parley, I do at once assure you fairly, that not a puppet of you all shall stir a step without this wall, nor merry Andrew beat thy drum, until you pay the foresaid sum. Then marching off with swiftest race, to write dispatches for his grace, the revel master left the room, and us condemned to fatal doom. Now, fair ones, if e'er I found grace, or if my jokes did ever please, use all your interest with your sec, they say he's at the lady's beck; and though he thinks as much of gold as ever Midas did of old, your charms I'm sure can never fail, your eyes must influence, must prevail, at your command he'll set us free, let us to you owe liberty. Get us a licence now to play, and will in duty ever pray. Epigram. Great folks are of a finer mould, Lord, how politely they can scold, while a coarse English tongue will itch for whore and rogue, and dog and bitch. Epigram on Josiah Hort, Archbishop of Tuam, who, on one occasion, left his church during service in order to wait on the Duke of Dorset. Lord Pam in the church, you'd think it kneeled down, when told that the Duke was just come to town. His station despising, unawed by the place, he flies from his God to attend to his grace. To the court it was better to pay his devotion, since God had no hand in his lordship's promotion. Epigram. Behold a proof of Irish sense, here Irish wit is seen; when nothing's left that's worth defence, we build a magazine. End of section 112. Section 113 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Trifles. George Rochfort's verses for the Reverend Dr. Swift, Dean of St. Patrick's, at Laracore, near Trim. Musa Clonshangiana. That down Patrick's Dean, or Patrick's down went, like two errand deans, two deans errant I meant, so that Christmas appears at Belcamp like a Lent, gives the gamesters of both houses great discontent. Our parsons agree here, as those did at Trent, Dan's forehead has got a most damnable dent, besides a large hole in his Michaelmas rent. But your fancy on rhyming so cursedly bent, with your bloody ounds in one stanza pent, does Jack's utter ruin at Picket prevent? For an answer in specie to yours must be sent. So this moment at Crambo not shuffling is spent, and I lose by this crotchet quarters, point and quint, which you know to a gamester is great bitterment, but whisk shall revenge me on you, Bat and Brent. Belcamp, January 1717. End of section 113. Section 114 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Left-Handed Letter to Dr. Sheridan, 1718. Delany reports it, and he has a shrewd tongue, that we both act the part of the clown and cow dung. We lie cramming ourselves, and are ready to burst, yet still are no wiser than we were at first. Pudicaic opprobria I freely must tell ye, et dici potuis et non putis revelli. Though Delany advised you to plague me no longer, you reply and rejoin like Hoadley of Bangor. I must now at one sitting pay off my old score. How many to answer? 1, 2, 3, or 4? But because the 3 former are long ago past, I shall for method's sake begin with the last. You treat me like a boy that knocks down his foe, who ere t'other gets up demands the rising blow. Yet I know a young rogue that thrown flat on the field, would as he lay under cry out, Sirrah, yield! So the French, when our generals soundly did pay them, went triumphant to church, and sang stoutly Te Deum. So the famous Tom Lee, when quite run aground, comes off by out laughing the company round. In every vile pamphlet you'll read the same fancies, having thus overthrown all our farther advances. My office of peace you ill understood. Friend Sheridan, when will you know your own good? 'Twas to teach you in modester language your duty, for were you a dog, I could not be rude to ye. As a good quiet soul, who no mischief intends, to a quarrelsome fellow cries, let us be friends. But we like Antaeus and Hercules fight, the oftener you fall, the oftener you write. And I'll use you as he did that overgrown clown, I'll first take you up, and then take you down. And 'tis your own case, for you never can wound the worst dunce in your school till he's heaved from the ground. I beg your pardon for using my left hand, but I was in great haste, and the other hand was employed at the same time in writing some letters of business. September 20, 1718. I will send you the rest when I have leisure, but pray come to dinner with the company you met here last. To the Dean of St. Patrick's, in answer to his left-handed letter. Since your poetic prancer is turned into cancer, I'll tell you at once, sir, I'm now not your man, sir. For pray, sir, what pleasure in fighting is found with a coward who studies to traverse his ground? When I drew forth my pen, with your pen you ran back, but I found out the way to your den by its track. From thence the black monster I drew, O my conscience, and so brought to light what before was stark nonsense. When I with my right hand did stoutly pursue, you turned to your left, and you writ like a Jew. Which, good Mr. Dean, I can't think so fair, therefore turn about to the right as you were. Then if with true courage your ground you maintain, my fame is immortal when Jonathan's slain. Who's greater by far than great Alexander, as much as a teal surpasses a gander, as much as a gamecock's excelled by a sparrow, as much as a coach is below a wheelbarrow, as much and much more as the most handsome man of all the whole world is exceeded by Dan. T. Sheridan. This was written with that hand which in others is commonly called the left hand. Oft have I been by poets told, that poor Jonathan, thou grow'st old. Alas, thy numbers failing all, poor Jonathan, how do they fall! Thy rhymes, which whilom made thy pride swell, now jingle like a rusty bridle. Thy verse, which ran both smooth and sweet, now limp upon their gouty feet. Thy thoughts, which were the true sublime, are humbled by the tyrant Time. Alas! what cannot Time subdue? Time has reduced my wine and you, emptied my casks, and clipped your wings, disabled both in our mainsprings. So that of late we two are grown the jest and scorn of all the tone. But yet if my advice be ta'en, we two may be as great again. I'll send you wings, you send me wine, then you will fly, and I shall shine. This was written with my right hand, at the same time with the other. How does Melpy like this? I think I have vexed her. Little did she know I was ambidexter. T. Sheridan. End of section 114. Section 115 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To the Dean of St. Patrick's. Dear Sir, since you in humble wise have made a recantation, from your low bended knees arise. I hate such poor prostration. 'Tis bravery that moves the brave, as one nail drives another. If you from me would mercy have, pray, sir, be such another. You that so long maintained the field with true poetic vigour, now you lay down your pen and yield, you make a wretched figure. Submit, but do't with sword in hand, and write a panegyric upon the man you cannot stand. I'll have it done in lyric, that all the boys I teach may sing the achievements of their Chiron, what conquests my stern looks can bring without the help of iron. A small goose quill ye clept a pen from magazine of Standish, drawn forth's more dreadful to the Dean than any sword we brandish. My ink's my flash, my pen's my bolt, whene'er I please to thunder, I'll make you tremble like a colt, and thus I'll keep you under. Thomas Sheridan. To the Dean of St. Patrick's. Dear Dean, I'm in a sad condition, I cannot see to read or write. Pity the darkness of thy prison, whose days are all transform'd to night. My head, though light's a dungeon grown, the windows of my soul are closed. Therefore to sleep I lay me down, my verse and I are both composed. Sleep did I say? That cannot be, for who can sleep that wants his eyes? My bed is useless then to me, therefore I lay me down to rise. Unnumber'd thoughts pass to and fro upon the surface of my brain. In various maze they come and go again. So have you seen in sheet burnt black the fiery sparks at random run, now here, now there, some turning back, some ending where they just begun. Thomas Sheridan. An answer by Delany to Thomas Sheridan. Dear Sherry, I'm sorry for your bloodshedded sore eye, and the more I consider your case, still the more I regret it, for see how the pain on't has wore ye, besides the good Whigs who strangely adore ye. In pity cry out, he's a poor blinded Tory, but listen to me, and I'll soon lay before ye a sovereign cure, well attested and gory. First wash it with rose, that makes dative rory, then send for 3 leeches, and let them all gore ye. Then take a cordial dram to restore ye. Then take Lady Judith, and walk a fine bory. Then take a glass of good claret ex mori. Then stay as long as you can ab uxori. And then if friend Dick will but ope your back door, he will quickly dispel the black clouds that hang o'er ye, and make you so bright that you'll sing Tory Rory, and make a new ballad worth 10 of John Dory. Though I work your cure, yet he'll get the glory. I'm now in the back school house high up 1 story, quite weary with teaching and ready to mory. My candle's just out too, no longer I'll pour ye, but away to Clembarry's, there's an end of my story. A reply by Sheridan to Delany. I like your colly reum, take my eye, sir, and clear ye 'twill gain you a great reputation. By this you may rise like the doctor so wise, who opened the eyes of the nation. And these, I must tell ye, are bigger than its belly. You know there's in Livy a story of the hands and the feet, denying of meat. Don't I write in the dark like a Tory? Your water so far goes, 'twould serve for an Argus, were all his whole 100 sore. So many we read he had in his head, or Ovid's a son of a whore. For your recipe, sir, may my lids never stir, if ever I think once to fee you. For I'd have you to know, when abroad I can go, that it's honour enough if I see you. Another reply by Sheridan. My pedagogue dear, I read with surprise your long sorry rhymes, which you made on my eyes. As the Dean of St. Patrick says, earth, seas, and skies, I cannot lie down, but immediately rise. To answer your stuff, and the doctor's likewise, like a horse with a gall, I'm pestered with flies. But his head and his tail new succour supplies, to beat off the vermin from back, rump, and thighs. The wing of a goose before me now lies, which is both shield and sword for such weak enemies. Whoever opposes me certainly dies, though he were as valiant as Condé or Guise. The women disturb me a crying of pies, with a voice twice as loud as a horse when he nighes. By this, sir, you find, should we rhyme for a prize, that I'd gain cloth of gold when you'd scarce merit fries. To Thomas Sheridan. Dear Tom, I'm surprised that your verse did not jingle, but your rhyme was not double, 'cause your sight was but single. For as Helsham observed, there's nothing can chime, or fit more exact than 1 eye and 1 rhyme. If you had not took physic, I'd pay off your bacon, but now I'll write short, for fear you're short taken. Besides, Dick forbid me, and called me a fool, for he says, short as 'tis, it will give you a stool. Swift to Sheridan in reply. Tom, for a goose you keep but base quills, they're fit for nothing else but pasquills. I've often heard it from the wise, that inflammations in the eyes will quickly fall upon the tongue, and thence, as famed John Bunyan sung, from out the pen will presently on paper dribble daintily. Suppose I called you goose, it is hard 1 word should stick thus in your gizzard. You're my goose, and no other mons, and you know all my geese are swans. Only 1 scurvy thing I find, swans sing when dying, geese when blind. But now I smoke, where lies the slander? I called you goose instead of gander. For that, dear Tom, ne'er fret and vex, I'm sure you cackle like the sex. I know the gander always goes with a quill stuck across his nose. So your eternal pen is still, or in your claw, or in your bill. But whether you can tread or hatch, I've something else to do than watch. As for your writing, I am dead, I leave it for the second head. Deanery House, October 27, 1718. To Dr. Sheridan, 1718. Whate'er your predecessors taught us, I have a great esteem for Plautus, and think your boys may gather thence more wit and humour than from Terence. But as to comic Aristophanes, the rogue too vicious and too profanous, I went in vain to look for Eupolis down in the Strand, just where the New Pole is. For I can tell you one thing, that I can, you will not find it in the Vatican. He and Cratinus used, as Horace says, to take his greatest grandees for asses. Poets in those days used to venture high, but these are lost full many a century. Thus you may see, dear friend, ex pede hence, my judgment of the old comedians. Proceed to tragics. First Euripides, an author where I sometimes dip a days, is rightly censured by the Stagirite, who says his numbers do not fadge aright. A friend of mine that author despises, so much he swears the very best pieces, for aught he knows, as bad as the species. And that a woman in these tragedies, commonly speaking, but a sad jade is. At least I'm well assured that no folk lays the weight on him they do on Sophocles. But above all I prefer Aeschylus, whose moving touches when they please kill us. And now I find my muse but ill able to hold out longer in trisyllable. I chose those rhymes out for their difficulty. Will you return as hard ones if I called ye? The Answer by Dr. Sheridan. Sir, I thank you for your comedies. I'll stay and read 'em now at home-a-days. Because Parcus wrote but sorely, thy notes I'll read Lambinus thoroughly, and then I shall be stoutly set agog to challenge every Irish pedagogue. I like your nice epistle critical, which does in threefold rhymes so witty fall. Upon the comic dram and tragedy, your notion's right, but verses maggoty. 'Tis but an hour since I heard a man swear it, the devil himself could hardly answer it. As for your friend the sage Euripides, I believe you give him now the slip o' days. But mum for that, pray come a Saturday, and dine with me, you can't a better day. I'll give you nothing but a mutton chop, some nappy mellowed ale with rotten hop, a pint of wine as good as Falern, which we poor masters, God knows, I'll earn. We'll have a friend or two, sir, at table, right honest men, for fewer come at table. Then when our liquor makes us talkative, we'll to the fields and take a walkative. Because I'm troubled much with laziness, these rhymes I've chosen for their easiness. Dr. Sheridan to Dr. Swift, 1718. Dear Dean, since in cruxes and puns you and I deal, pray why is a woman a sieve and a riddle? 'Tis a thought that came into my noddle this morning, in bed as I lay, sir, a tossing and turning. You'll find if you read but a few of your histories, all women as Eve, all women are mysteries. To find out this riddle, I know you'll be eager, and make every one of the sex a belle figure. But that will not do, for I mean to commend them. I swear without jest, I in honour intend them. In a sieve, sir, their ancient extraction I quite tell, in a riddle I give you their power and their title. This I told you before, do you know what I mean, sir? Not I, by my troth, sir. Then read it again, sir. The reason I send you these lines of rhyme double, is purely through pity, to save you the trouble of thinking 2 hours for a rhyme as you did last, when your Pegasus canter'd in triple and rid fast. As for my little nag, which I keep at Parnassus, with Phoebus's leave to run with his asses, he goes slow and sure, and he never is jaded, while your fiery steed is whipped, spurred, and bastinaded. The Dean's Answer. In reading your letter alone in my hackney, your damnable riddle my poor brains did rack nigh, and when with much labour the matter I cracked, I found you mistaken in matter of fact. A woman's no sieve, for with that you begin, because she lets out more than e'er she takes in; and that she's a riddle can never be right, for a riddle is dark, but a woman is light. But grant her a sieve, I can say something archer. Pray what is a man? He's a fine linen searcher. Now tell me a thing that wants interpretation. What name for a maid was the first man's damnation? If your worship will please to explain me this rebus, I swear from henceforward you shall be my Phoebus. From my hackney coach, September 11, 1718, past 12 at noon. Dr. Sheridan's reply to the Dean. Don't think these few lines which I send a reproach from my muse in a car to your muse in a coach. The great God of poems delights in a car, which makes him so bright that we see him from far. For were he mewed up in a coach, 'tis allowed, we'd see him no more than we see through a cloud. You know, to apply this, I do not disparage your lines, but I say they're the worse for the carriage. Now first you deny that a woman's a sieve. I say that she is. What reason d'ye give? Because she lets out more than she takes in. Is that your advanced for't? You are still to begin. Your major and minor I both can refute. I'll teach you hereafter with whom to dispute. A sieve keeps in half, deny't if you can. Adzux, I mistook it, who thought of the bran? I tell you in short, sir, you should have a pair of stocks, for thinking to palm on your friends such a paradox. Indeed, I confess, at the close you grew better, but you light from your coach when you finished your letter. Your thing which you say wants interpretation. What's name for a maiden the first man's damnation? A damsel Adam's hell, there I have hit it. Just as you conceived it, just so I have writ it. Since this I've discovered, I'll make you to know it, that now I'm your Phoebus, and you are my poet. But if you interpret the two lines that follow, I'll again be your poet, and you my Apollo. Why, a noble lord's dog and my schoolhouse this weather make up the best catch when they're coupled together. From my Ringsend car, September 12th, 1718, past 5 in the morning, on a repetition day. To the same by Dr. Sheridan, 12 o'clock at noon, September 12th, 1718. Sir, perhaps you may wonder I send you so soon another epistle. Consider 'tis noon. For all his acquaintance well know that friend Tom is, whenever he makes one, as good as his promise. Now Phoebus exalted sits high on his throne, dividing the heavens, dividing my crown. In two poems and business my skull's split in two, one side for the lawyers, and t'other for you. With my left eye I see you sit snug in your stall, with my right I'm attending the lawyers that scrawl. With my left I behold your bellower a curchase, with my right I'm a reading my deeds for a purchase. My left ear's attending the hymns of the choir, my right ear is stunned with the noise of the crier. My right hand's inditing these lines to your reverence, my left is indenting for me an heirs ever hence. Although in myself I'm divided in two, dear Dean, I shall ne'er be divided from you. The Dean of St. Patrick's to Thomas Sheridan. Sir, I cannot but think that we live in a bad age, O tempora, O mores, as 'tis in the adage. My foot was but just set out from my cathedral, when into my hands comes a letter from the droll. I can't pray in quiet for you and your verses, but now let us hear what the muse from your car says. Excellent, good, your anger was stirred, well, punners and rhymers must have the last word. But let me advise you, when next I hear from you, to leave off this passion which does not become you. For we who debate on a subject important must argue with calmness, or else we'll come short on't. For myself I protest, I care not a fiddle for a riddle and sieve, or a sieve and a riddle. And think of the sex as you please, I'd as live you call them a riddle as call them a sieve. Yet still you are out, though to vex you I'm loath, for I'll prove it impossible they can be both. A schoolboy knows this, for it plainly appears that a sieve dissolves riddles by help of the shears. For you can't but have heard of a trick among wizards, to break open riddles with shears or with scissors. Think again of the sieve, and I'll hold you a wager, you'll dare not to question my minor or major. A sieve keeps half in, and therefore, no doubt, like a woman, keeps in less than it lets out. Why, sure, Mr. Poet, your head got ajar by riding this morning too long in your car. And I wish your few friends, when they next see your cargo, for the sake of your senses would lay an embargo. You threaten the stocks, I say you are scurrilous, and you durst not talk thus if I saw you at our alehouse. But as for your threats, you may do what you can. I despise any poet that truckled to Dan. But keep a good tongue, or you'll find to your smart, from rhyming in cars you may swing in a cart. You found out my rebus with very much modesty, but thanks to the lady, I'm sure she's too good to ye. Till she lent you her help, you were in a fine twitter, you hit it, you say, you're a delicate hitter. How could you forget so ungratefully, alas? And if you be my Phoebus, pray who was your Pallas? As for your new rebus, or riddle, or crux, I will either explain or repay it by trucks. Though your lords and your dogs and your catches, methinks, are harder than ever were put by the Sphinx. And thus I am fully revenged for your late tricks, which is all at present from the Dean of St. Patrick's. From my closet, September 12, 1718, just 12 at noon. To the Dean of St. Patrick's. Sir, your Billingsgate muse methinks does begin with much greater noise than a conjugal din. A pox of her bawling, her tempora et mores, what are times now to me? A'n't I one of the Tories? You tell me my verses disturb you at prayers. Oh, Mr. Dean, are you there with your bears? You pray, I suppose, like a heathen to Phoebus, to give his assistance to make out my rebus, which I don't think so fair. Leave it off for the future, when the combat is equal, this god should be neuter. I'm now at the tavern, where I drink all I can. To write with more spirit, I'll drink no more Helicon. For Helicon is water, and water is weak. 'Tis wine on the grossly that makes your muse speak. This I know by her spirit and life, but I think she's much in the wrong to scold in her drink. Her damn'd pointed tongue pierced almost to my heart. Tell me of a cart, tell me of a fart. I'd have you to tell on both sides of her ears, if she comes to my house, that I'll kick her down stairs. Then home she shall limping go, squalling out, oh my knee. You shall soon have a crutch to buy for your Melpomene. You may come as her bully to bluster and swagger, but my ink is my poison, my pen is my dagger. Stand off, I desire, and mark what I say to you. If you come, I will make your Apollo shine through you. Don't think, sir, I fear a Dean as I would fear a dun, which is all at present from yours Thomas Sheridan. The Dean to Thomas Sheridan. Sir, when I saw you to-day, as I went with Lord Anglesey, Lord, said I, who's that parson? How awkwardly dangles he? When whip you trot up, without minding your betters, to the very coach side, and threaten your letters. Is the poison and dagger you boast in your jaws, tro? Are you still in your cart with convitia ex plastro? But to scold is your trade, which I soon should be foiled in, for scolding is just quasi diceres schooled in. And I think I may say, you could many good shillings get, were you dressed like a bawd, and sold oysters at Billingsgate. But coached or carted, I'd have you know, sirrah, I'll write, though I'm forced to write in a wheelbarrow. Nay, Hector and Swagger, you'll still find me stanch, and you and your cart shall give me carte blanche. Since you write in a cart, keep it tecta et sarta, 'tis all you have for it, 'tis your best Magna Carta. And I love you so well, as I told you long ago, that I'll ne'er give my vote for Delanda Carthago. Now you write from your cellar, I find out your art, you rhyme as folks fence, in tierce and in cart. Your ink is your poison, your pen is what not, your ink is your drink, your pen is your pot. To my goddess Melpomene, pride of her sex, I gave, as you beg, your most humble respects. The rest of your compliment I dare not tell her, for she never descends so low as the cellar. But before you can put yourself under her banners, she declares from her throne you must learn better manners. If once in your cellar my Phoebus should shine, I'll tell you I'd not give a fig for your wine. So I'll leave him behind, for I certainly know it, what he ripens above ground he sours below it. But why should we fight thus, my partner so dear, with 365 poems a year? Let's quarrel no longer, since Dan and George Rochfort will laugh in their sleeves, I can tell you they watch for't. Then George will rejoice, and Dan will sing high day, Hoc Ithacus velit et magni mercanter Atridae. Jonathan Swift. Written, signed, and sealed 5 minutes and 11 seconds after the receipt of yours, allowing 7 seconds for sealing and superscribing from my bedside, just 11 minutes after 11, September 15, 1718. End of section 115. Section 116 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To Dr. Sheridan, December 14, 1719, 9 at night. Sir, it is impossible to know by your letter whether the wine is to be bottled tomorrow or no. If it be or be not, Why did you not in plain English tell us so? For my part, it was by mere chance I came to sit with the ladies this night. And if they had not told me there was a letter from you, and your man Alexander had not gone and come back from the deanery, and the boy here had not been sent, to let Alexander know I was here, I should have missed the letter outright. Truly, I don't know who's bound to be sending for corks to stop your bottles with a vengeance. Make a page of your own age, and send your man Alexander to buy corks, for Saunders already has gone above 10 jaunts. Mrs. Dingley and Mrs. Johnson say truly they don't care for your wife's company, though they like your wine, but they had rather have it at their own house to drink in quiet. However, they own it is very civil in Mrs. Sheridan to make the offer, and they cannot deny it. I wish Alexander safe at St. Catherine's to-night, with all my heart and soul, upon my word and honour. But I think it base in you to send a poor fellow out so late at this time of year, when one would not turn out a dog that one valued. I appeal to your friend Mr. Connor. I would present my humble service to my Lady Mount Cashel, but truly I thought she would have made advances to have been acquainted with me, as she pretended. But now I can write no more, for you see plainly my paper is ended. 1 P.S. I wish when you prated, your letter you dated, much plague it created, I scolded and rated. My soul is much grated, for your man I long waited. I think you are fated like a bear to be baited. Your man is belated, the case I have stated, and me you have cheated, my stables unslated. Come back t'us well freighted, I remember my late head, and wish you translated for teasing me. 2 P.S. Mrs. Dingley desires me singly. Her service to present you, hopes that will content you. But Johnson, madam, is grown a sad dam, for want of your converse, and cannot send one verse. 3 P.S. You keep such a twattling with you and your bottling, but I see the sum total, we shall ne'er have a bottle. The long and the short, we shall not have a quart. I wish you would sign't that we have a pint. For all your colloguing, I'd be glad for a noggin. But I doubt 'tis a sham, you won't give us a dram. 'Tis of shine a mouth moonful, you won't part with a spoonful. And I must be nimble, if I can fill my thimble. You see I won't stop till I come to a drop. But I doubt the oraculum is a poor supernaculum, though perhaps you may tell it for a grace if we smell it. Stella. Dr. Sheridan's answer. I'd have you to know, as sure as you're Dean, on Thursday my cask of O'Brien I'll drain. If my wife is not willing, I'll say she's a queen, and my right to the cellar, egad, I'll maintain. As bravely as any that fought at Dunblane, go tell her it over and over again. I hope as I ride to the town it won't rain, for should it, I fear it will cool my hot brain, entirely extinguish my poetic vein, and then I should be as stupid as Cain, who preached on 3 heads, though he mentioned but 2, now wardles in haste and begins to complain. Your most humble servant, dear sir, I remain, T. S. N. Get Helsham Walmsley Delany, and some Gratins if there be any. Take care you do not bid too many. Dr. Swift's reply. The verses you sent on the bottling your wine were in every one's judgment exceedingly fine, and I must confess, as a dean and divine, I think you inspired by the muses all 9. I nicely examined them every line, and the worst of them all like a barn door did shine. O that Jove would give me such a talent as thine, with Delany or Dan I would scorn to combine. I know they have many a wicked design, and give Satan his due, Dan begins to refine. However, I wish, honest comrade of mine, you would really on Thursday leave St. Catharine, where I hear you are crammed every day like a swine. With me you'll no more have a stomach to dine, nor after your victuals lie sleeping supine. So I wish you were toothless like Lord Masserine. But were you as wicked as lewd Aretine, I wish you would tell me which way you incline. If when you return your road you don't line, on Thursday I'll pay my respects at your shrine. Wherever you bend, wherever you twine, in square or in opposite, circle or trine, your beef will on Thursday be salter than brine. I hope you have swilled with new milk from the kine, as much as the Liffey's outdone by the Rhine, and Dan shall be with us with nose aquiline. If you do not come back, we shall weep out our eyne, or may your gown never be good Lutherine. The beef you have got, I hear, is a chine, but if too many come, your madam will whine, and then you may kiss the low end of her spine. But enough of this poetry Alexandrine, I hope you will not think this a Pasquine. End of section 116. Section 117 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To Mr. Thomas Sheridan, upon his verses written in circles by Dr. Swift. It never was known that circular letters by humble companions were sent to their betters. And as to the subject, our judgment meherical is this, that you argue like fools in a circle. But now for your verses we tell you imprimis, the segment so large twixt your reason and rhyme is, that we walk all about like a horse in a pound, and before we find either, our noddles turn round. Sufficient it were, one would think, in your mad rant, to give us your measures of line by a quadrant. But we took our dividers, and found your damned metre in each single verse took up a diameter. But how, Mr. Sheridan, came you to venture George, Dan, Dean, and Nim to place in the centre? 'Twill appear to your cost you are fairly trepanned, for the chord of your circle is now in their hand. The chord or the radius, it matters not whether, by which your jade Pegasus fixed in a tether, as his betters are used, shall be lashed round the ring, 3 fellows with whips, and the Dean holds the string. Will Hancock declares you are out of your compass to encroach on his art by writing of bombast, and he has taken just now a firm resolution to answer your style without circumlocution. Lady Betty presents you her service most humble, and is not afraid your worship will grumble, that she make of your verses a hoop for Miss Tame, which is all at present, and so I remain. On Dr. Sheridan's Circular Verses, by Mr. George Rochfort. With music and poetry equally blessed, a bard thus Apollo most humbly addressed: Great author of harmony, verses, and light, assisted by thee I both fiddle and write. Yet unheeded I scrape or I scribble all day, my verses neglected, my tunes thrown away. Thy substitute here vice Apollo disdains to vouch for my numbers, or list to my strains. Thy manual signet refuses to put to the airs I produce from the pen or the gut. Be thou then propitious, great Phoebus, and grant relief or reward to my merit or want. Though the Dean and Delany transcendently shine, O brighten one solo or sonnet of mine. With them I'm content thou shouldst make thy abode, but visit thy servant in jig or in ode. Make one work immortal, 'tis all I request. Apollo looked pleased, and resolving to jest, replied, Honest friend, I've consider'd thy case, nor dislike thy well-meaning and humorous face. Thy petition I grant, the boon is not great, thy works shall continue, and here's the receipt. On rondos hereafter thy fiddle strings spend, write verses in circles, they never shall end. End of section 117. Section 118 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On Dan Jackson's Picture, cut in silk and paper. To fair Lady Betty Dan sat for his picture, and defied her to draw him so oft as he piqued her. He knew she'd no pencil or colouring by her, and therefore he thought he might safely defy her. Come sit, says my lady, then whips up her scissor, and cuts out his coxcomb in silk in a trice, sir. Dan sat with attention, and saw with surprise how she lengthened his chin, how she hollowed his eyes, but flattered himself with a secret conceit, that his thin lantern jaws all her art would defeat. Lady Betty observed it, then pulls out a pin, and varies the grain of the stuff to his grin. And to make roasted silk to resemble his raw bone, she raised up a thread to the jet of his jawbone, till at length in exactest proportion he rose, from the crown of his head to the arch of his nose. And if Lady Betty had drawn him with wig and all, 'tis certain the copy had outdone the original. Well, that's but my outside, says Dan with a vapour. Say you so, says my lady, I've lined it with paper. Pater Delany sculpts it. On the same picture. Clarissa draws her scissars from the case, to draw the lines of poor Dan Jackson's face. One sloping cut made, forehead, nose, and chin, and it produced a mouth, and made him grin. such as in tailor's measure you have seen, but still were wanting his grimalkin eyes, for which grey worsted stocking paint supplies. The unravelled thread through needle's eye convey'd, transferr'd itself into his pasteboard head. How came the scissars to be thus outdone? The needle had an eye, and they had none. O wondrous force of art! Now look at Dan, You'll swear the pasteboard was the better man. The devil, says he, the head is not so full. Indeed it is, behold the paper skull. Thomas Sheridan, Sculp. On the same. If you say this was made for friend Dan, you belie it. I'll swear he's so like it, that he was made by it. Thomas Sheridan, Sculp. On the same picture. Dan's evil genius in a trice had stripped him of his coin at dice. Chloe, observing this disgrace, on Pam cut out his rueful face. By God, says Dan, 'tis very hard. Cut out at dice, cut out at card. George Rochfort, Sculp. On the same picture. Whilst you three merry poets traffic to give us a description graphic of Dan's large nose in modern Sapphic, I spend my time in making sermons, or writing libels on the Germans, or murmuring at Whig's preferments. But when I would find rhyme for Rochfort, and look in English, French, and Scotch for't, at last I'm fairly forced to botch for't. Bid Lady Betty recollect her, and tell who was it could direct her to draw the face of such a spectre. I must confess that as to me, sirs, though I ne'er saw her hold the scissars, I now could safely swear it is hers. 'Tis true no nose could come in better. 'Tis a vast subject stuffed with matter, which all may handle, none can flatter. Take courage, Dan, this plainly shows that not the wisest mortal knows what fortune may befall his nose. Show me the brightest Irish toast, who from her lover e'er could boast above a song or two at most. For thee, three poets now are judging all, to praise the cheeks, chin, nose, the bridge and all, both of the picture and original. Thy nose's length and fame extend so far, dear Dan, that every friend tries who shall have it by the end. And future poets, as they rise, shall read with envy and surprise thy nose outshining Celia's eyes. Jonathan Swift. Dan Jackson's defence. My verse little better you'll find than my faces, a word to the wise ut pictura poesis. Three merry lads with envy stung, because Dan's face is better hung, combined in verse to rhyme it down, and in its place set up their own, as if they'd run it down much better by number of their feet in metre, or that its red did cause their spite, which made them draw in black and white. But that as 'twill, this most is true, they were inspired by what they drew. Let then such critics know my face gives them their comeliness and grace, while every line of face does bring a line of grace to what they sing. But yet methinks, though with disgrace both to the picture and the face, I should name them who do rehearse the story of the picture farce. The squire in French as hard as stone, or strong as rock, that's all as one, on face on cards is very brisk, sirs, because on them you play at whisk, sirs. But much I wonder why my crany should envied be by D.L. Aney, and yet much more that half namesake should join a party in the frake. For sure I am it was not safe thus to abuse his better half, as I shall prove you, Dan, to be divisum and conjunctively. For if Dan love not sherry, can sherry be anything to Dan? This is the case whene'er you see Dan makes nothing of sherry. Or should Dan be by sherry or ta'en, then Dan would be poor Sheridan. 'Tis hard then he should be decried by Dan with sherry by his side. But if the case must be so hard, that faces suffer by a card, let critics censure, what care I? Backbiters only we defy, faces are free from injury. Mr. Rochfort's reply. You say your face is better hung than ours, by what? By nose or tongue? In not explaining you are wrong to us, sir. Because we thus must state the case, that you have got a hanging face, the untimely end's a damned disgrace of noose, sir. But yet be not cast down, I see, a weaver will your hangman be, you'll only hang in tapestry with many. And then the ladies, I suppose, will praise your longitude of nose, for latent charms within your clothes, dear Danny. Thus will the fair of every age from all parts make their pilgrimage, worship thy nose with pious rage of love, sir. All their religion will be spent about thy woven monument, and not one orison be sent to Jove, sir. You the famed idol will become, as gardens graced in ancient Rome, by matrons worshipped in the gloom of night. O happy Dan, thrice happy sure, thy fame for ever shall endure, who after death can love secure at sight. So far I thought it was my duty to dwell upon thy boasted beauty. Now I'll proceed a word or two t'ye in answer to that part where you carry on this paradox, that rock and stone and your opinion all are one. How can, sir, a man of reasoning so profound so stupidly be run aground, as things so different to confound t'our senses? Except you judged them by the knock of near an equal hardy block, such an experimental stroke convinces. Then might you be by dint of reason a proper judge on this occasion, 'gainst feeling there's no disputation is granted. Therefore to thy superior wit, who made the trial, we submit thy head to prove the truth of it we wanted. In one assertion you're to blame, where Dan and Sherry's made the same, endeavouring to have your name refined, sir. You'll see most grossly you mistook, if you consult your spelling book. The better half you say you took, you'll find, sir. SHA she and RI re, both put together make sherry. DAN Dan makes up the three syllables. Dan is but one, and sherry two, then, sir, your choice will never do. Therefore I've turned, my friend, on you the tables. Dr. Delany's reply. Assist me, my muse, while I labour to limn him. Credit pisons isti tabulae persimilum. You look and you write with so different a grace, that I envy your verse, though I did not your face. And to him that thinks rightly there's reason enough, 'cause one is as smooth as the other is rough. But much I'm amazed you should think my design was to rhyme down your nose, or your harlequin grine, which you yourself wonder the deal should malign. And if 'tis so strange that your monstership's crany should be envied by him, much less by Delany, though I own to you, when I consider it stricter, I envy the painter, although not the picture. And justly she's envied, since a fiend of hell was never drawn right but by her and Raphael. Next, as to the charge which you tell us is true, that we were inspired by the subject we drew. Inspired we were, and well, sir, you knew it, yet not by your nose, but by the fair one that drew it. Had your nose been the muse, we had near been inspired, though perhaps it might justly have been said we were fired. As to the division of words in your staves, like my countryman's horncomb into three halves, I meddle not with, but presume to make merry. You call Dan one half, and t'other half sherry. Now if Dan's a half, as you call Tor and Or, then it can't be denied that sherry's two more. For pray give me leave to say, sir, for all you, that sherry's at least of double the value. But perhaps, sir, you did it to fill up the verse, so crowds in a concert, like actors in farce, play two parts in one, when scrapers are scarce. But be that as 'twill, you'll no more anon, sir, when Sheridan sends to marry Dan answer. Sheridan's reply. Three merry lads you own we are, 'tis very true, and free from care, but envious we cannot bear, believe, sir. For were all forms of beauty thine, were you like Nereus soft and fine, we should not in the least repine or grieve, sir. Then know from us, most beauteous Dan, that roughness best becomes a man. 'Tis women should be pale and wan, and taper. And all your trifling beaux and fops, who comb their brows and sleek their chops, are but the offspring of toy shops, mere vapour. We know your morning hours you pass to cull and gather out a fass. Is this the way you take your glass? Forbear it. Those loads of paint upon your toilet will never mend your face, but spoil it. It looks as if you did parboil it. Drink claret. Your cheeks by sleeking are so lean, that they're like Cynthia in the wane, or breast of goose when 'tis picked clean, or pullet. See what by drinking you have done, you've made your phiz a skeleton, from the long distance of your crown t'your gullet. A rejoinder by the Dean in Jackson's name. Wearied with saying grace and prayer, I hasten down to country air, to read your answer, and prepare reply to't. But your fair lines so grossly flatter, pray do they praise me or bespatter? I must suspect you mean the latter. Ah, sly boot! It must be so. What else, alas! Can mean by culling of a face, and all that stuff of toilet, glass, and box comb? But be't as 'twill, this must you grant, that you're a daub, whilst I but paint. Then which of us is to the quaint coxcomb? I value not your jokes of noose, your gibes, and all your foul abuse, more than the dirt beneath my shoes, nor fear it. Yet one thing vexes me, I own, thou sorry scarecrow of skin and bone, to be called lean by a skeleton, who'd bear it? 'Tis true, indeed, to curry friends you seem to praise to make amends, and yet before your stanza ends you flout me 'bout latent charms beneath my clothes, for every one that knows me knows that I have nothing like my nose about me. I pass now where you fleer and laugh, 'cause I call Dan my better half. Oh, there you think you have me safe; but hold, sir, is not a penny often found to be much greater than a pound? By your good leave, my most profound and bold sir, Dan's noble metal, sherry base, so Dan's the better, though the lace. An ounce of gold's worth 10 of brace, dull pedant. As to your spelling, let me see if she makes sure, and re makes re. Good spelling master, your crany has lead in't. Another rejoinder by the Dean in Jackson's name. 3 days for answer I have waited, I thought an ace you'd ne'er have baited. And art thou forced to yield, ill-fated poetaster? Henceforth acknowledge that a nose of thy dimensions fit for prose, but every one that knows Dan knows thy master. Blush for ill spelling, for ill lines, and fly with hurry to Rathmines. Thy fame, thy genius now declines, proud boaster. I hear with some concern your roar, and flying think to quit the score, by clapping billets on your door and post, sir. Thy ruin, Tom, I never meant. I'm grieved to hear your banishment, but pleased to find you do relent, and cry on. I mauled you when you looked so bluff, but now I'll secret keep your stuff, for no prostration is enough to the lion. End of Section 118. Section 119 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Sheridan's submission by the Dean. Poor Sherry inglorious, to Dan the victorious, presents, as 'tis fitting, petition and greeting. To you, victorious and brave, your now subdued and suppliant slave, most humbly sues for pardon. Who, when I fought, still cut me down, and when I vanquish'd, fled the town, pursued and laid me hard on. Now lowly crouch'd, I cry peccavi, and prostrate supplicate poor Mavi. Your mercy I rely on; for you, my conqueror and my king, in pardoning as in punishing, will show yourself a lion. Alas, sir, I had no design, but was unwarily drawn in, for spite I ne'er had any. 'Twas the damn'd squire with the hard name, the deal too that owed me a shame, the devil and Delany. They tempted me to attack your highness, and then with wonted wile and slyness they left me in the lurch. Unhappy wretch! for now, I ween, I've nothing left to vent my spleen, but ferula and birch. And they, alas, yield small relief, seem rather to renew my grief, my wounds bleed all anew. For every stroke goes to my heart, and at each lash I feel the smart of lash laid on by you. The Pardon. The suit which humbly you have made is fully and maturely weighed, and as 'tis your petition, I do forgive, for well I know, since you're so bruised, another blow would break the head of Priscian. 'Tis not my purpose or intent that you should suffer banishment. I pardon now you've courted. And yet I fear this clemency will come too late to profit thee, for you're with grief transported. However, this I do command, that you your birch do take in hand, read concord and syntax on. The bays your own are only mine. Do you then still your nouns decline, since you've declined Dan Jackson? End of section 119. Section 120 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Last Speech and Dying Words of Daniel Jackson. My dear countrymen, mediocribus esse poetis non funes, non grieps, non concessere calumni. To give you a short translation of these two lines from Horace's Art of Poetry, which I have chosen for my neck verse, before I proceed to my speech, you will find they fall naturally into this sense. For poets who can't tell rocks from stones, the rope, the hangman, and the gallows groans. I was born in a fen near the foot of Mount Parnassus, commonly called the Logwood Bog. My mother, whose name was Stanza, conceived me in a dream, and was delivered of me in her sleep. Her dream was that Apollo, in the shape of a gander, with a prodigious long bill, had embraced her, upon which she consulted the oracle of Delphos, and the following answer was made. You'll have a gosling, call it Dan, and do not make your goose a swan. 'Tis true, because the god of wit, to get him in that shape thought fit, venture you may to turn him loose, but let it be to another goose. The time will come, the fatal time, when he shall dare a swan to rhyme. The towering swan comes sousing down, and breaks his pinions, cracks his crown. From that sad time and sad disaster, he'll be a lame cracked poetaster. At length for stealing rhymes and triplets, he'll be content to hang in giblets. You see now, gentlemen, this is fatally and literally come to pass. For it was my misfortune to engage with that Pindar of the times, Tom Sheridan, who did so confound me by sousing on my crown, and did so batter my pinions, that I was forced to make use of borrowed wings, though my false accusers have deposed that I stole my feathers from Hopkins, Sternhold, Sylvester, Ogleby, Durfee, etc., for which I now forgive them and all the world. I die a poet, and this latter shall be my gratis ad Parnassum, and I hope the critics will have mercy on my works. Then lo, I mount as slowly as I sung, and then I'll make a line for every rung. There's 9, I see, the Muses too are 9. Who would refuse to die a death like mine? 1. Thou first rung, Clio, celebrate my name. 2. Euterpe, in tragic numbers do the same. 3. This rung I see, Terpsichores thy flute. 4. Erato, sing me to the gods adut. 5. Thalia, don't make me a comedy. 6. Urania, raise me towards the starry sky. 7. Calliope, to ballad strains descend. 8. And Polyhymnia, tune them for your friend. 9. So shall Melpomene mourn my fatal end. Poor Dan Jackson. End of section 120. Section 121 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To the Reverend Daniel Jackson, to be humbly presented by Mr. Sheridan in person, with respect, care, and speed, to be delivered by and with Mr. Sheridan. Dear Dan, here I return my trust, nor ask 1 penny for remittance. If I have well performed my task, pray send me an acquittance. Too long I bore this weighty pack, as Hercules the sky. Now take him you, Dan Atlas, back, let me be stander by. Not all the witty things you speak in compass of a day, not half the puns you make a week, should bribe his longer stay. With me you left him out at nurse, yet are you not my debtor? For as he hardly can be worse, I ne'er could make him better. He rhymes and puns and rhymes, just as he did before; And when he's lash'd 100 times, he rhymes and puns the more. When rods are laid on schoolboys' bums, the more they frisk and skip, the schoolboys' top but louder hums, the more they use the whip. Thus a lean beast beneath a load, a beast of Irish breed, will in a tedious dirty road outgo the prancing steed. You knock him down, and down in vain, and lay him flat before ya; For soon as he gets up again, he'll strut and cry Victoria. At every stroke of mine he fell, 'tis true he roar'd and cried, But his impenetrable shell could feel no harm beside. The tortoise thus, with motion slow, will clamber up a wall, Yet senseless to the hardest blow, gets nothing but a fall. Dear Dan, then why should you or I attack this pericrany? And since it is in vain to try, we'll send him to Delany. Postscript. Lean Tom, when I saw him last week on his horse awry, threaten'd loudly to turn me to stone with his sorcery. But I think, little Dan, that in spite of what our foe says, he will find I read Ovid and his Metamorphoses. For omitting the first, where I make a comparison, with a sort of allusion to Putland or Harrison, yet by my description you'll find he in short is a pack and a garron, a top and a tortoise. So I hope from henceforward you ne'er will ask, can I maul this teasing, conceited, rude, insolent animal? And if this rebuke might turn to his benefit, for I pity the man, I should be glad then of it. End of Section 121. Section 122 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Sheridan to Swift. A Highlander once fought a Frenchman at Margate, the weapons a rapier, a backsword, and target. Brisk Monsieur advanced as fast as he could, but all his fine pushes were caught in the wood. While Sawney with backsword did slash him and nick him, while t'other, enraged that he could not once prick him, cried, Sirrah, you rascal, you son of a whore, me'll fight you, beggar, if you come from your door. Our case is the same, if you'll fight like a man, don't fly from my weapon and skulk behind Dan, for he's not to be pierced, his leather's so tough, the devil himself can't get through his buff. Besides, I cannot but say, that it is hard, not only to make him your shield, but your vizard. And like a tragedian you rant and you roar, through the horrible grin of your larva's wide bore. Nay, farther, which makes me complain much and frumpet, you make his long nose your loud speaking trumpet, with the din of which tube my head you so bother, that I scarce can distinguish my right ear from t'other. You made me in your last a goose, I lay my life on't you are wrong, to raise me by such foul abuse, my quill you'll find's a woman's tongue. And slit just like a bird will chatter, and like a bird do something more, when I let fly 'twill so bespatter, I'll change you to a blackamoor. I'll write while I have half an eye in my head, I'll write while I live, and I'll write when you're dead. Though you call me a goose, you pitiful slave, I'll feed on the grass that grows on your grave. Sheridan to Swift. I can't but wonder, Mr. Dean, to see you live so often slain. My arrows fly, and fly in vain, but still I try and try again. I'm now, sir, in a writing vein, don't think, like you, I squeeze and strain. Perhaps you'll ask me what I mean, I will not tell, because it's plain. Your muse, I'm told, is in the wane, if so, from pen and ink refrain. Indeed, believe me, I'm in pain for her and you, your life's a seine of verse and rhymes and hurricane, enough to crack the strongest brain. Now to conclude, I do remain your honest friend, Tom Sheridan. Swift to Sheridan. Poor Tom, wilt thou never accept a defiance, though I dare you to more than quadruple alliance? You're so retrograde, sure you were born under Cancer. Must I make myself hoarse with demanding an answer? If this be your practice, mean scrub, I assure ye, and swear by each fate, and your new friends each fury, I'll drive you to Cavan, from Cavan to Dundalk, I'll tear all your rules, and demolish your pun talk. Nay, further, the moment you're free from your scalding, I'll chew you to bullets, and puff you at Baldwin. End of Section 122. Section 123 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Mary the Cookmaid's Letter to Dr. Sheridan, 1723.
Well, if ever I saw such another man since my mother bound up my head, you a gentleman, marry come up, I wonder where you were bred. I'm sure such words does not become a man of your cloth. I would not give such language to a dog, faith and troth. Yes, you called my master a knave. Fie, Mr. Sheridan, 'tis a shame for a person who should know better things to come out with such a name. Knave in your teeth, Mr. Sheridan, 'tis both a shame and a sin. And the Dean, my master, is an honester man than you and all your kin. He has more goodness in his little finger than you have in your whole body. My master is a personable man, and not a spindle-shank hoddy-doddy. And now whereby I find you would fain make an excuse, because my master one day in anger called you a goose, which, and I am sure I've been his servant 4 years since October, and he never called me worse than sweetheart, drunk or sober. Not that I know his reverence was ever concerned to my knowledge, though you and your cum-robes keep him out so late in your wicked college. You say you will eat grass on his grave, a Christian eat grass, whereby you now confess yourself to be a goose or an ass. But that's as much as to say that my master should die before ye. Well, well, that's as God pleases, and I don't believe that's a true story. And so say I told you so, and you may go tell my master what care I, and I don't care who knows it, 'tis all one to Mary. Everybody knows that I love to tell the truth and shame the devil. I am but a poor servant, but I think gentlefolks should be civil. Besides, you found fault with our victuals one day that you was here. I remember it was on a Tuesday, of all days in the year. And Saunders the man says you are always jesting and mocking. Mary, says he, one day as I was mending my master's stocking, my master is so fond of that minister that keeps the school. I thought my master a wise man, but that man makes him a fool. Saunders, said I would rather than a quart of ale he would come into our kitchen, and I would pin a dishclout to his tail. And now I must go and get Saunders to direct this letter, for I write but a sad scrawl, but my sister Margaret she writes better. Well, but I must run and make the bed before my master comes from prayers, and see now it strikes 10, and I hear him coming upstairs. Whereof I could say more to your verses if I could write written hand, and so I remain in a civil way your servant to command. Mary.
End of section 123. Section 124 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Portrait from the Life. Come sit by my side while this picture I draw, in chattering a magpie, in pride a jackdaw, a temper the devil himself could not bridle, impertinent mixture of busy and idle. As rude as a bear, no mule half so crabbed, she swills like a sow, and she breeds like a rabbit. A housewife in bed, at table a slattern, for all an example, for no one a pattern. Now tell me, friend Thomas Ford Grattan and Mary Dan, has this any likeness to good Madam Sheridan? End of section 124. Section 125 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On Stealing a Crown when the Dean was asleep. Dear Dean, since you in sleepy wise have oped your mouth and closed your eyes, like ghost I glide along your floor, and softly shut the parlour door. For should I break your sweet repose, who knows what money you might lose? Since oftentimes it has been found a dream has given £10,000. Then sleep, my friend, dear Dean, sleep on, and all you get shall be your own, provided you to this agree, that all you lose belongs to me. The Dean's answer. So about 12 at night the punk steals from the cully when he's drunk, nor is contented with a treat without her privilege to cheat. Nor can I the least difference find, but that you left no clap behind. But jest apart, restore, you capon ye, my 12 13s and 6d. halfpenny, to eat my meat and drink my medlicot, and then to give me such a deadly cut. But 'tis observed, that men in gowns are most inclined to plunder crowns. Could you but change a crown as easy as you can steal one, how 'twould please ye! I thought the lady at St. Catherine's knew how to set you better patterns. For this I will not dine with Agmondisham, and for his victuals let a ragman dish 'em. Saturday night. End of Section 125. Section 126 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A prologue to a play performed at Mr. Sheridan's school, spoken by one of the scholars. As in a silent night a lonely swain, tending his flocks on the Pharsalian plain, to heaven around directs his wandering eyes, and every look finds out a new surprise. So great's our wonder, ladies, when we view our lower sphere made more serene by you. O, could such light in my dark bosom shine, what life, what vigour should adorn each line! Beauty and virtue should be all my theme, and Venus brighten my poetic flame. The adventurous painter's fate and mine are one, who fain would draw the bright meridian sun. Majestic light his feeble art defies, and for presuming robs him of his eyes. Then blame your power that my inferior lays sink far below your too exalted praise. Don't think we flatter your applause to gain. No, we're sincere, to flatter you were vain. You spurn at fine encomiums misapplied, and all perfections but your beauties hide. Then as you're fair, we hope you will be kind, nor frown on those you see so well inclined. To please you most, grant us your smiles, and then those sweet rewards will make us act like men. The Epilogue. Now all is done, ye learned spectators tell, have we not played our parts extremely well? We think we did, but if you do complain, we're all content to act the play again. 'Tis but 3 hours, or thereabouts at most, and time well spent in school cannot be lost. But what makes you frown, you gentlemen above? We guessed long since you all desire to move. But that's in vain, for we'll not let a man stir, who does not take up Plautus first and constir. Him we'll dismiss that understands the play, he who does not, I faith he's like to stay. Though this new method may provoke your laughter, to act plays first and understand them after, we do not care, for we will have our humour, and we'll try you, and you, and you, sir, and 1 or 2 more. Why don't you stir? There's not a man will budge. How much they've read, I leave you all to judge. End of Section 126. Section 127 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Song. My time, O ye Cratons, was happily spent, when Bacchus went with me wherever I went. For then I did nothing but sing, laugh, and jest. Was ever a toper so merrily blest? But now I so cross and so peevish am grown, because I must go to my wife back to tone, to the fondling and towing of honey and dear, and the conjugal comforts of horrid small beer. My daughter I ever was pleased to see come fawning and begging to ride on my knee. My wife too was pleased, and to the child said, Come hold in your belly, and hold up your head. But now out of humour, I with a sour look cry hussy, and give her a souse with my book. And I'll give her another, for why should she play, since my Bacchus and glasses and friends are away? Wine, what of thy delicate hue is become, that tinged our glasses with blue like a plum? Those bottles, those bumpers, why do they not smile, while we sit carousing and drinking the while? Ah, bumpers, I see that our wine is all done. Our mirth falls, of course, when our Bacchus is gone. Then, since it is so, bring me here a supply. Be gone, froward wife, for I'll drink till I die. End of section 127. Section 128 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A New Year's Gift for the Dean of St. Patrick's, given him at Quilca by Sheridan, 1723. How few can be of grandeur sure! The high may fall, the rich be poor. The only favourite at court to-morrow may be Fortune's sport. For all her pleasure and her aim is to destroy both power and fame. Of this the Dean is an example, no instance is more plain and ample. The world did ever yet produce for courts a man of greater use. Nor has the world supplied as yet with more vivacity and wit, merry alternately and wise, to please the statesman and advise. Through all the last and glorious reign was nothing done without the Dane, the courtier's prop, the nation's pride, but now, alas, he's thrown aside. He's quite forgot, and so's the Queen, as if they both had never been. To see him now a mountaineer, oh, what a mighty fall is here! From settling governments and thrones, to splitting rocks and piling stones. Instead of Bolingbroke and Anna, Shanetunnelly and Bryangrana, Oxford and Ormond he supplies, in every Irish teague he spies. So far forgetting his old station, he seems to like their conversation. Conforming to the tatter'd rabble, he learns their Irish tongue to gabble. And what our anger more provokes, he's pleased with their insipid jokes. Then turns and asks them who do lack a good plug or pipeful of tobacco. All cry they want, to every man he gives extravagant a span. Thus are they grown more fond than ever, and he is highly in their favour. Bright Stella, Quilca's greatest pride, for them he scorns and lays aside. And Sheridan is left alone, all day to gape and stretch and groan, while grumbling poor complaining Dingley is left to care and trouble singly. All o'er the mountains spreads the rumour, both of his bounty and good humour, so that each shepherdess and swain comes flocking here to see the Dane. All spread around the land, you'd swear that every day we kept a fair. My fields are brought to such a pass, I have not left a blade of grass, that all my wethers and my beeves are slighted by the very thieves. At night right loath to quit the park, his work just ended by the dark, with all his pioneers he comes, to make more work for whisk and brooms. Then seated in an elbow chair, to take a nap he does prepare, while two fair damsels from the lawns lull him asleep with soft cronawns. Thus are his days in delving spent, his nights in music and content. He seems to gain by his distress, his friends are more, his honours less. End of section 128. Section 129 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. To Quilca, a country house of Dr. Sheridan, in no very good repair. 1725. Let me thy properties explain: a rotten cabin, dropping rain, chimneys with scorn rejecting smoke, stools, tables, chairs, and bedsteads broke. Here elements have lost their uses, air ripens not, nor earth produces. In vain we make poor Sheila toil, fire will not roast, nor water boil. Through all the valleys, hills, and plains, the goddess Want in triumph reigns, and her chief officers of state sloth, dirt, and theft around her wait. The blessings of a country life. 1725. Far from our debtors, no Dublin letters, not seen by our betters. The plagues of a country life. A companion with news, a great want of shoes, eat lean meat or choose a church without pews, our horses away, no straw, oats, or hay, December and May, our boys run away, all servants at play. A faithful inventory of the furniture belonging to room in T.C.D. in imitation of Dr. Swift's manner, written in the year 1725. This description of a scholar's room in Trinity College, Dublin, was found among Mr. Smith's papers. It is not in the Dean's hand, but seems to have been the production of Sheridan. Imprimis there's a table blotted, a tatter'd hanging all bespotted, a bed of flocks, as I may rank it, reduced to rug and half a blanket, a tinder box without a flint, an oaken desk with nothing in't, a pair of tongs bought from a broker, a fender and a rusty poker, a penny pot and basin this, designed for water, that for piss, a broken winded pair of bellows, two knives and forks, but neither fellows. Item a surplice not unmeeting, either for tablecloth or sheeting. There is likewise a pair of breeches, but patched and fallen in the stitches, hung up in study very little, plastered with cobweb and with spittle. An airy prospect also pleasing from my light window without glazing. A trencher and a college bottle piled up on Locke and Aristotle. A prayer book which he seldom handles, a save-all and 2 farthing candles. A smutty ballad, musty libel, a burgher's dickius and a Bible. The C seasons and the senses by Overton to save expenses. Item, if I'm not much mistaken, a mousetrap with a bit of bacon. A candlestick without a snuffer, whereby his fingers often suffer. 2 odd old shoes I should not skip here, each strapless serves instead of slippers. And chairs a couple, I forgot 'em, but each of them without a bottom. Thus I in rhyme have comprehended his goods, and so my schedule's ended. End of section 129. Section 130 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Palinodia, Horace, Book 1, Ode 16. Great sir, than Phoebus more divine, whose verses far his rays outshine, look down upon your quondam foe. O let me never write again, if e'er I disoblige you deign, should you compassion show. Take those iambics which I wrote, when anger made me piping hot, and give them to your cook, to singe your fowl or save your paste, the next time when you have a feast, they'll save you many a book. To burn them you are not content, I give you then my free consent, to sink them in the harbour. If not, they'll serve to set off blocks, to roll on pipes, and twist in locks, so give them to your barber. Or, when you next your physic take, I must entreat you then to make a proper application. 'Tis what I've done myself before, with Dan's fine thoughts, and many more, who gave me provocation. What cannot mighty anger do? It makes the weak the strong pursue, a goose attack a swan. It makes a woman tooth and nail her husband's hands and face assail, while he's no longer man. Though some, we find, are more discreet, before the world are wondrous sweet, and let their husbands hector. But when the world's asleep, they wake, that is the time they choose to spake, witness the curtain lecture. Such was the case with you, I find, all day you could conceal your mind, but when St. Patrick's chimes awaked your muse, my midnight curse, when I engaged for better for worse, you scolded with your rhymes. Have done, I quit the field, to you as to my wife I yield. As she must wear the breeches, so shall you wear the laurel crown. Win it and wear it, 'tis your own, the poet's only riches. End of section 130. Section 131 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Letter to the Dean when in England, 1726, by Dr. Sheridan. You will excuse me, I suppose, for sending rhyme instead of prose, because hot weather makes me lazy, to write in metre is more easy. While you are trudging London town, I'm strolling Dublin up and down. While you converse with lords and dukes, I have their betters here, my books. Fixed in an elbow chair at ease, I choose companions as I please. I'd rather have one single shelf than all my friends, except yourself. For after all that can be said, our best acquaintance are the dead. While you're in raptures with Faustina, I'm charm'd at home with our Shelina. While you are starving there in state, I'm cramming here with butcher's mate. You say, when with those lords you dine, they treat you with the best of wine, Burgundy, Cyprus, and Tokay. Why, so can we, as well as they. No reason then, my dear good Dean, but you should travel home again. What though you mayn't in Ireland hope to find such folk as Gay and Pope? If you with rhymers here would share but half the wit that you can spare, I'd lay 12 eggs that in 12 days you'd make a dozen of Popes and Gays. Our weather's good, our sky is clear, we've every joy if you were here. So lofty and so bright a sky was never seen by Ireland's eye. I think it fit to let you know, this week I shall to Quilca go, to see M'Fadden's horny brothers first suck and after bull their mothers. To see, alas, my wither'd trees, to see what all the country sees. My stunted quicks, my famish'd beeves, my servants such a pack of thieves, my shatter'd firs, my blasted oaks, my house in common to all folks. No cabbage for a single snail, my turnips, carrots, parsnips fail. My no green peas, my few green sprouts, my mother always in the pouts, my horses rid or gone astray, my fish all stolen or run away. My mutton lean, my pullets old, my poultry starved, the corn all sold. A man come now from Quilca says, they've stolen the locks from all your keys. But what must fret and vex me more, he says, they stole the keys before. They've stolen the knives from all the forks, and half the cows from half the sturks. Nay more, the fellow swears and vows, they've stolen the Turks from half the cows. With many more accounts of woe, yet though the devil be there, I'll go. 'Twixt you and me the reason's clear, because I've more vexation here. An Invitation to Dinner from Dr. Sheridan to Dr. Swift, 1727. I've sent to the ladies this morning to warn 'em, to order their chaise and repair to Rathfarnham, where you shall be welcome to dine if your deanship can take up with me and my friend Stella's leanship. I've got you some soles and a fresh bleeding bret, that's just disengaged from the toils of a net. An excellent loin of fat veal to be roasted, with lemons and butter and sippets well toasted. Some larks that descended, mistaking the skies, which Stella brought down by the light of her eyes. And there like Narcissus they gazed till they died, and now they're to lie in some crumbs that are fried. My wine will inspire you with joy and delight, 'tis mellow and old and sparkling and bright. An emblem of one that you love, I suppose, who gathers more lovers the older she grows. Let me be your Gay, and let Stella be Pope, we'll wean you from sighing for England, I hope. When we are together, there's nothing that is dull, there's nothing like Durfee or Smedley or Tisdall. We've sworn to make out an agreeable feast, our dinner, our wine, and our wit to your taste. Your answer in half an hour, though you are at prayers, you have a pencil in your pocket. End of section 131. Section 132 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. On the 5 Ladies at Sot's Hole, with the Doctor at their head. N.B. The ladies treated the Doctor, sent as from an officer in the army, 1728. Fair ladies, number 5, who in your merry freaks with little Tom contrive to feast on ale and steaks, while he sits by a grinning to see you safe in Sot's Hole, set up with greasy linen, and neither mugs nor pots whole. Alas, I never thought a priest would please your palate. Besides, I'll hold a groat, he'll put you in a ballad, where I shall see your faces on paper daub'd so foul, they'll be no more like Graces than Venus like an owl. And we shall take you rather to be a midnight pack of witches met together, with Beelzebub in black. It fills my heart with woe to think such ladies fine should be reduced so low to treat a dull divine. Be by a parson cheated. Had you by cunning stagers, you might yourselves be treated by captains and by majors. See how corruption grows, while mothers, daughters, aunts, instead of powder'd beaux, from pulpits choose gallants. If we who wear our wigs, with fantail and with snake, are bubbled thus by prigs, zounds, who would be a rake? Had I a heart to fight, I'd knock the Doctor down, or could I read or write, egad, I'd wear a gown. Then leave him to his birch, and at the Rose on Sunday, the parson's safe at church, I'll treat you with Burgundy. The 5 Ladies answer to the Beau, with the wig and wings at his head, by Dr. Sheridan. You little scribbling Beau, what demon made you write? Because to write you know as much as you can fight. For compliments so scurvy, I wish we had you here, we'd turn you topsy-turvy into a mug of beer. You thought to make a farce on the man and place we chose, we're sure a single parson is worth 100 Beaux. And you would make us vassals, good Mr. Wig and Wings, to silver clocks and tassels, you would, you thing of things. Because around your cane a ring of diamonds is set, and you in some by lane have gained a paltry grisette, shall we of sense refined your trifling nonsense bear, as noisy as the wind, as empty as the air? We hate your empty prattle, and vow and swear 'tis true, there's more in one child's rattle than 20 fops like you. The Beau's reply to the 5 Ladies' answer. Why, how now, dapper black, I smell your gown and cassock, as strong upon your back as Tisdall smells of a sock. To write such scurvy stuff, fine ladies never do't, I know you well enough, in eke your cloven foot. Fine ladies, when they write, nor scold nor keep a splutter, their verses give delight, as soft and sweet as butter. But Satan never saw such haggard lines as these, they stick athwart my maw, as bad as Suffolk cheese. End of Section 132. Section 133 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dr. Sheridan's Ballad on Ballyspellin, 1728. All that you would refine your blood as pure as famed Llewellyn, by waters clear come every year to drink at Ballyspellin. Though pox or itch your skins enrich with rubies past the telling, 'twill clear your skin before you've been a month at Ballyspellin. If lady's cheek be green as leek when she comes from her dwelling, the kindling rose within it glows when she's at Ballyspellin. The sooty brown who comes from town grows here as fair as Helen, then back she goes to kill the beaux by dint of Ballyspellin. Our ladies are as fresh and fair as Rose or bright Dunkelling, and Mars might make a fair mistake were he at Ballyspellin. We men submit as they think fit, and here is no rebelling. The reason's plain, the ladies reign, they're queens at Ballyspellin. By matchless charms, unconquer'd arms, they have the way of quelling such desperate foes as dare oppose their power at Ballyspellin. Cold water turns to fire and burns, I know, because I fell in a stream which came from one bright dame who drank at Ballyspellin. Fine beaux advance, equipped for dance, to bring their Ann or Nell in, with so much grace, I'm sure no place can vie with Ballyspellin. No politics, no subtle tricks, no man his country selling, we eat, we drink, we never think of these at Ballyspellin. The troubled mind, the puffed with wine, do all come here pell-mell in, and they are sure to work their cure by drinking Ballyspellin. Though dropsy fills you to the gills, from chin to toe though swelling, pour in, pour out, you cannot doubt a cure at Ballyspellin. Death throws no darts through all these parts, no sextons here are knelling. Come judge and try, you'll never die, but live at Ballyspellin. Except you feel darts tipped with steel, which here are every bell in, when from their eyes sweet ruin flies, we die at Ballyspellin. Good cheer, sweet air, much joy, no care, your sight, your taste, your smelling, your ears, your touch, transported much, each day at Ballyspellin. Within this ground we all sleep sound, no noisy dogs a yelling, except you wake, for Celia's sake, all night at Ballyspellin. There all you see, both he and she, no lady keeps her cell in, but all partake the mirth we make, who drink at Ballyspellin. My rhymes are gone, I think I've none, unless I should bring hell in, but since I'm here, to heaven so near, I can't at Ballyspellin. Answer by Dr. Swift. Dare you dispute, you saucy brute, and think there's no refelling your scurvy lays and senseless praise you give to Ballyspellin? Howe'er you flounce, I here pronounce your medicine is repelling, your water's mud, and sours the blood when drunk at Ballyspellin. Those pocky drabs, to cure their scabs, you thither are compelling, will back be sent worse than they went from nasty Ballyspellin. Llewellyn? Why, as well may I name honest Dr. Pellin. So hard sometimes you tug for rhymes to bring in Ballyspellin. No subject fit to try your wit when you went colonelling, but dull intrigues twixt jades and teagues you met at Ballyspellin. Our lasses fair, say what you dare, who sowens make with shelling, at Market Hill more beaux can kill than yours at Ballyspellin. Would I was whipped when Sheila stripped to wash herself our well in, a bum so white ne'er came in sight at paltry Ballyspellin. Your Mawkins there smocks hempen wear, of Holland not an ell in, no, not a rag, whate'er your brag, is found at Ballyspellin. But Tom will prate at any rate, all other nymphs expelling, because he gets a few grisettes at lousy Ballyspellin. There's bonny Jane in yonder lane, just o'er against the Bell Inn, where can you meet a lass so sweet round all your Ballyspellin? We have a girl deserves an earl, she came from Enniskellin, so fair, so young, no such among the belles of Ballyspellin. How would you stare to see her there, the foggy mists dispelling, that cloud the brows of every blouse who lives at Ballyspellin? Now as I live, I would not give a stiver or a skellin to touse and kiss the fairest miss that leaks at Ballyspellin. Whoe'er will raise such lies as these deserves a good cudgelling, who falsely boasts of belles and toasts at dirty Ballyspellin. My rhymes are gone to all but one, which is our trees are felling, as proper quite as those you write to force in Ballyspellin. End of section 133. Section 134 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. An Epistle to Two Friends. To Dr. Helsham, November 23 at night, 1731. Sir, when I left you, I found myself of the grape's juice sick. I'm so full of pity, I never abuse sick. And the patientest patient ever you knew sick, both when I am purge sick, and when I am spew sick. I pitied my cat, whom I knew by her mew sick. She mended at first, but now she's a new sick. Captain Butler made some in the church black and blue sick. Dean Cross, had he preach'd, would have made us all pew sick. Are not you in a crowd when you sweat and you stew sick? Lady Santry got out of the church when she grew sick, and as fast as she could to the deanery flew sick. Miss Morris was, I can assure you 'tis true, sick, for who would not be in that numerous crew sick? Such music would make a fanatic or Jew sick, yet ladies are seldom at Ombre or Loo sick. Nor is old Nanny Shales whene'er she does brew sick. My footman came home from the church of a bruise sick, and looked like a rake who was made in the stew sick. But you learned doctors can make whom you choose sick, and poor I myself was when I withdrew sick. For the smell of them made me like garlic and rue sick, and I got through the crowd, though not led by a clue sick. Yet hoped to find many, for that was your cue sick, but there was not a dozen to give them their due sick. And those, to be sure, stuck together like glue sick. So are ladies in crowds when they squeeze and they screw sick. You may find they are all by their yellow pale hue sick. So am I when tobacco like Robin I chew sick. To Dr. Sheridan. November 23 at night. If I write any more, it will make my poor muse sick. This night I came home with a very cold dew sick, and I wish I may soon be not of an ague sick. But I hope I shall ne'er be like you of a shrew sick, who often has made me by looking askew sick. Dr. Helsham's answer. The doctor's first rhyme would make any Jew sick. I know it has made a fine lady in blue sick, for which she is gone in a coach to Kilbrew sick. Like a hen I once had from a fox when she flew sick. Last Monday a lady at St. Patrick's did spew sick, and made all the rest of the folks in the pew sick. The surgeon who bled her his lancet outdrew sick, and stopped the distemper as being but new sick. The yacht the last storm had all her whole crew sick. Had we two been there, it would have made me a new sick. A lady that longed is by eating of glue sick. Did you ever know one in a very good queue sick? I'm told that my wife is by winding a clue sick. The doctors have made her by rhyme and by rue sick. There's a gamester in town for a throw that he threw sick, and yet the whole trade of his dice he'll pursue sick. I've known an old miser for paying his due sick. At present I'm grown by a pinch of my shoe sick. And what would you have me with verses to do sick? Send rhymes, and I'll send you some others in lieu sick. Of rhymes I have plenty, and therefore send 20. Answered the same day, when sent. November 23. I desire you will carry both these to the doctor together with his own, and let him know we are not persons to be insulted. I was at Howth to-day, and stayed abroad a-visiting till just now. Tuesday evening, November 23, 1731. Can you match with me who send 33? You must get 14 more, to make up 34. But if me you can conquer, I'll own you a strong cur. This morning I'm growing by smelling of you sick. My brothers come over with gold from Peru sick. Last night I came home in a storm that then blew sick. This moment my dog had a cat I halloo sick. I hear from good hands that my poor cousin Hugh's sick, by quaffing a bottle and pulling a screw sick. And now there's no more I can write, you'll excuse sick. You see that I scorn to mention word music. I'll do my best to send the rest, without a jest I'll stand the test. These lines that I send you I hope you'll peruse sick. I'll make you with writing a little more news sick. Last night I came home with drinking of booze sick. My carpenter swears that he'll hack and he'll hew sick. An officer's lady I'm told is tattoo sick. I'm afraid that the line 34 you will view sick. Lord, I could write a dozen more. You see I've mounted 34. End of section 134. Section 135 of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A true and faithful inventory of the goods belonging to Dr. Swift, Vicar of Lyracore, upon lending his house to the Bishop of Meath, until his own was built. An oaken broken elbow chair, a caudle cup without an ear, a battered shattered ash bedstead, a box of deal without a lid, a pair of tongs but out of joint, a backsword poker without point, a pot that's cracked across around, with an old knotted garter bound, an iron lock without a key, a wig with hanging grown quite grey, a curtain worn to half a stripe, a pair of bellows without pipe, a dish which might good meat afford once, an Ovid and an old concordance, one bottle bottom wooden platter, one is for meal and one for water. There likewise is a copper skillet, which runs as fast out as you fill it, a candlestick, snuff dish, and save all, and thus his household goods you have all. These to your lordship, as a friend, till you have built, I freely lend. They'll serve your lordship for a shift, why not as well as Dr. Swift? End of section 135. Section 136 of the Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A New Simile for the Ladies, with Useful Annotations, by Dr. Sheridan, 1733. To make a writer miss his end, you've nothing else to do but mend. I often tried in vain to find a simile for womankind. A simile I mean to fit him in every circumstance to hit him. Through every beast and bird I went, I ransacked every element, and after peeping through all nature, to find so whimsical a creature, a cloud presented to my view, and straight this parallel I drew. Clouds turn with every wind about, they keep us in suspense and doubt, yet oft perverse, like womankind, are seen to scud against the wind. And are not women just the same? For who can tell at what they aim? Clouds keep the stoutest mortals under, when bellowing they discharge their thunder. So when the alarum bell is rung of Zante's everlasting tongue, the husband dreads its loudness more than lightning's flash or thunder's roar. Clouds weep as they do, without pain, and what are tears but women's rain? The clouds about the welkin roam, and ladies never stay at home. The clouds build castles in the air, a thing peculiar to the fair. For all the schemes of their forecasting are not more solid nor more lasting. A cloud is light by turns and dark, such is a lady with her spark. Now with a sudden pouting gloom she seems to darken all the room. Again she's pleased, his fears beguiled, and all is clear when she has smiled. In this they're wondrously alike, I hope the simile will strike. Though in the darkest dumps you view them, stay but a moment, you'll see through them. The clouds are apt to make reflection, and frequently produce infection. So Celia, with small provocation, blasts every neighbour's reputation. The clouds delight in gaudy show, for they, like ladies, have their beau. The gravest matron will confess, that she herself is fond of dress. Observe the clouds in pomp arrayed, what various colours are displayed. The pink, the rose, the violets dye, in that great drawing room, the sky. How do these differ from our graces, in garden silks, brocades, and laces? Are they not such another sight, when met upon a birthday night? The clouds delight to change their fashion, dear ladies, be not in a passion. Nor let this whim to you seem strange, who every hour delight in change. In them and you alike are seen the sullen symptoms of the spleen. The moment that your vapours rise, we see them dropping from your eyes. In evening fair you may behold, the clouds are fringed with borrowed gold. And this is many a lady's case, who flaunts about in borrowed lace. Grave matrons are like clouds of snow, their words fall thick and soft and slow. While brisk coquettes, like rattling hail, our ears on every side assail. Clouds, when they intercept our sight, deprive us of celestial light. So when my Chloe I pursue, no heaven besides I have in view. Thus on comparison you see, in every instance they agree. So like, so very much the same, that one may go by t'other's name. Let me proclaim it then aloud, that every woman is a cloud. An answer to a scandalous poem, wherein the author most audaciously presumes to cast an indignity upon their highnesses the clouds, by comparing them to a woman. Written by Dermot O'Nephelly, Chief Cape of Howth, by Dr. Swift. ADVERTISEMENT from the clouds. N.B. The following answer to that scurrilous libel against us should have been published long ago in our own justification, but it was advised that, considering the high importance of the subject, it should be deferred until the meeting of the General Assembly of the nation. Presumptuous bard, how could you dare a woman with a cloud compare? Strange pride and insolence you show inferior mortals there below. And is our thunder in your ears so frequent or so loud as theirs? Alas! our thunder soon goes out, and only makes you more devout. Then is not female clatter worse, that drives you not to pray, but curse? We hardly thunder thrice a year, the bolt discharged, the sky grows clear. But every sublunary dowdy, the more she scolds, the more she's cloudy. How useful were a woman's thunder, if she, like us, would burst asunder! Yet though her stays hath often cursed her, and whispering wish'd the devil burst her, for hourly thundering in his face, she ne'er was known to burst a lace. Some critic may object, perhaps, that clouds are blamed for giving claps; but what, alas, are claps ethereal, compared for mischief to venereal? Can clouds give buboes, ulcers, blotches, or from your noses dig out notches? We leave the body sweet and sound, we kill, 'tis true, but never wound. You know a cloudy sky bespeaks fair weather when the morning breaks; but women in a cloudy plight foretell a storm to last till night. A cloud in proper season pours his blessings down in fruitful showers; but woman was by fate designed to pour down curses on mankind. When Sirius o'er the welkin rages, our kindly help his fire assuages; but woman is a cursed inflamer, no parish ducking stool can tame her. To kindle strife Dame Nature taught her, like fireworks she can burn in water. For fickleness how durst you blame us, who for our constancy are famous? You'll see a cloud in gentle weather keep the same face an hour together; while women, if it could be reckoned, change every feature every second. Observe our figure in a morning, of foul or fair we give you warning; but can you guess from women's air 1 minute whether foul or fair? Go read in ancient books enroll'd what honours we possess'd of old. To disappoint Ixion's rape, Jove dress'd a cloud in Juno's shape, which when he had enjoy'd, he swore, no goddess could have pleased him more. No difference could he find between his cloud and Jove's imperial queen. His cloud produced a race of centaurs, famed for 1,000 bold adventures; from us descended aborigine, by learned authors called Nubigine. But say, what earthly nymph do you know so beautiful to pass for Juno? Before Æneas durst aspire to court her majesty of Tyre, his mother begg'd of us to dress him, that Dido might the more caress him. A coat we gave him dyed in grain, a flaxen wig and clouded cane. The wig was powder'd round with sleet, which fell in clouds beneath his feet; with which he made a tearing show, and Dido quickly smoked the bow. Among your females make inquiries, what nymph on earth so fair as Iris? With heavenly beauty so endow'd, and yet her father is a cloud. We dress'd her in a gold brocade, befitting Juno's favourite maid. 'Tis known that Socrates the wise adored us clouds as deities; to us he made his daily prayers, as Aristophanes declares. From Jupiter took all dominion, and died defending his opinion. By his authority 'tis plain you worship other gods in vain; and from your own experience know we govern all things there below. You follow where we please to guide, o'er all your passions we preside; can raise them up or sink them down, as we think fit to smile or frown. And just as we dispose your brain, are witty, dull, rejoice, complain. Compare us then to female race, we to whom all the gods give place? Who better challenge your allegiance, because we dwell in higher regions? You find the gods in Homer dwell in seas and streams, or low as hell. Even Jove and Mercury his pimp no higher climb than Mount Olymp. Who makes you think the clouds he pierces? He pierced the clouds, he kissed their arses; while we o'er Teneriffa placed are loftier by a mile at least. And when Apollo struts on Pindus, we see him from our kitchen windows; or to Parnassus looking down, can piss upon his laurel crown. Fate never form'd the clouds to fly, in vehicles they mount the sky. When Jove would some fair nymph inveigle, he comes full gallop on his eagle. Though Venus be as light as air, she must have doves to draw her chair. Apollo stirs not out of door, without his lacquer'd coach and four. And jealous Juno, ever snarling, is drawn by peacocks in her berlin. But we can fly where'er we please, o'er cities, rivers, hills, and seas. From east to west the world we roam, and in all climates are at home. With care provide you as we go, with sunshine, rain, and hail or snow. You, when it rains, like fools believe Jove pisses on you through a sieve. An idle tale, 'tis no such matter, we only dip a sponge in water, then squeeze it close between our thumbs, and shake it well, and down it comes. As you shall to your sorrow know, we'll watch your steps where'er you go. And since we find you walk a foot, we'll soundly souse your frieze surtout. 'Tis but by our peculiar grace that Phoebus ever shows his face. For when we please, we open wide our curtains blue from side to side. And then how saucily he shows his brazen face and fiery nose, and gives himself a haughty air, as if he made the weather fair. 'Tis sung wherever Celia treads, the violets ope their purple heads, the roses blow, the cowslip springs. 'Tis sung, but we know better things. 'Tis true, a woman on her mettle will often piss upon a nettle; but though we own she makes it wetter, the nettle never thrives the better. While we, by soft prolific showers, can every spring produce you flowers. Your poets, Chloe's beauty height'ning, compare her radiant eyes to lightning. And yet I hope 'twill be allow'd, that lightning comes but from a cloud. But gods like us have too much sense at poets' flights to take offence. Nor can hyperboles demean us, each drab has been compared to Venus. We own your verses are melodious, but such comparisons are odious. Observe the case I stated thus, though you compare your trull to us. But think how damnably you err, when you compare us clouds to hair. From whence you draw such bold conclusions, but poets love profuse allusions. And if you now so little spare us, who knows how soon you may compare us to Chartres, Walpole, or a king, if once we let you have your swing. Such wicked insolence appears offensive to all pious ears. To flatter women by a metaphor, what profit could you hope to get of her? And for her sake turn base detractor against your greatest benefactor. But we shall keep revenge in store, if ever you provoke us more. For since we know you walk a foot, we'll soundly drench your frieze surtout. Or may we never thunder throw, nor souse to death a birthday beau. We own your verses are melodious, but such comparisons are odious. End of Section 136. End of The Poems of Jonathan Swift, Volume 2, by Jonathan Swift.